And they were like, no, we didn't think
Yeah,
about
I
it.
know, dude.
Because as
Trust
you can
me,
see
I
in what she's
know.
modeling here, if you have an apparent sun above you that's rotating over you, at some point you're going to have to move into that circle of apparent sun above you and move away from the other apparent sun rotating over the rest of the earth. Right?
Dude, we're gonna have to get you in contact with Shane because Shane found this video of these brothers that flew over Antarctica and were filming the sun from the plane. And there's like a certain point where the sun looks like it transitions from like a white to a yellow light and vice versa. You gotta see that video. I think it's like Flat Earth Brothers or Brothers, like I can't remember exactly what it is off the top of my head, but Shane will have it. Yeah, as soon as
Interesting.
so Shane usually gets off work 3 p.m. my time, like 6 p.m. Eastern. What time zone are you in the East or West?
I'm in Mountain Time Zone.
Mountain, so it's like what, 1 o'clock for you?
It's 12:15
Oh,
a.m.
12. Okay, so you're 1 hour ahead of me. All right. So yeah, about like 4 or 5 p.m. tomorrow, I'll probably get off work, and I'll just message you on Discord and be like, "Hey, got Shane in here," and yeah, he's got all this stuff on lock. The links I sent you, you got. If you really want to just go over it, all of the Aether Cosmology presentations are published on Obsidian. That's the Obsidian link I gave you,
Okay.
and Shane's database as well, which is adl.place. Just go ahead
Awesome.
and peruse that, man. And any
Yeah, I'll take some notes and
questions,
questions.
dude? Yeah, any questions you have, please shoot them, and we got you.
So my
And
most
I'll
So
fundamental
right
question.
here, I just want to show you. I have the laser actually like connected almost right above the thing, so I'm moving them in conjunction. You could see how the dot will follow you around the edge.
Yeah.
It's gonna follow you no matter where you go. And then if it's
I think my most
and
rotating,
fundamental question about the
and
ether
here's
is
through the
that
center. Hold on,
yeah,
let me
go
show
ahead.
you.
for everyone that studies the ether, is it kind of well understood that without some sort of background medium, energy, light, and sound can't propagate?
Yeah, I mean,
Or is that
it
an
doesn't.
assumption that can never be
Well,
nullified
just
because we can't test something without any kind of ether?
well, basically the permeability of a vacuum. Once you take out all the air, there's still something there. There's
Yeah.
still resistance there, which is what we claim is ether. And just in a logical sense, like how can you have something waving through nothing?
Right. So is this what mainstream science calls dark matter in space?
No, no,
No.
no, no. So this is what they call the quantum foam or quantum fields or
So
QED, quantum
so
electrodynamics.
they think it's just waving through non-particles that are somehow in a quantum realm?
So essentially the wave particle duality basically set up the concept for them to come back to a wave because they realize it's retarded to not have to have only particles and no wave, like nothing waving. Even the idea of sending a photon, like a single photon, it's not even a single photon, it's a burst of energy. It's like a packet, right? Which is like uh they say it's a packet of photons. Like I can go on about this like in detail, but in essence, if you, I would talk to Alan
So
about
basically
this.
the light's not visible until it hits particles. So in between being blasted off of the sun and traveling to a distant spherical body with particles, then it shows the light, but otherwise it's undetectable, unobservable because it's
Yeah,
in
I
a
mean,
waveform.
well, you got different types of quote unquote light, right? Like the whole visible
Yeah.
light spectrum. Then you have the electromagnetic spectrum. Um, but ether is responsible for all of the propagation in our paradigm.
Yeah.
And it's just coherent that way. Like it just makes sense. It's just everything is basically a perturbation of it. So you have different modalities, as Witsit would say, of the ether. And it's just I'd love to have you talk to Dr. Michael Heffron, who actually wrote a book on the luminiferous ether, and he actually takes the NIST standards, right? The NIST, and they develop standards, like for the like he has a paper on the air compressibility within mechanical and electrical machinery. And without these calculations and these standards, then you're not going to get precise measuring uh, accuracy in these machines, dude. I'm butchering it right now. I'm paraphrasing, but there's there's actual proof of some type of compressibility to the ether. It acts like a fluid essentially, it has hydrodynamic properties.
You mean like
Um,
Second Peter talks about the earth being created in and out of water?
there you go. By the way, I'm gonna definitely I want to pick your brain on biblical questions because that's what I've been trying to learn. Like just like how you're trying to learn with the ether, like I'm on the biblical
Yeah, brother.
rabbit
Sure.
hole. I've been actually watching this thing called Satan's Little Season. What's your yeah? What's your thoughts on the 1,000-year reign and all that? It's been quite interesting.
Yeah, I have a debate I did on that. And so
Mm,
I'm on the other side of it. I don't think that Christ has returned. I don't think that the millennial kingdom has already happened because
okay.
there's a bunch of biblical qualifiers for that event. And I the short of it is that all the prophecies about Christ's second coming and establishing the millennial kingdom on the earth, once that happens, it never goes away. So
Mm,
even in the little season of Revelation 20 that's mentioned, where Satan's let out after 1,000 years, and he goes and deceives people in great quantities that stand on the seashore, and then they come back to attack the encampment of the saints in the beloved city. Well, that beloved city that they're attacking is
it's
the New
not there yet.
Jerusalem.
Right.
It's the New Jerusalem that's already descended out of heaven, which is 1,500 miles approximately tall, 1,444 stadia, or 1,600 stadia. And you're not gonna that's never going away once it descends on the earth. It's the actual tabernacle of the Father that the Son rules over that descends to the earth, and all
Mm,
nations come and camp around it for practical reasons. Because the day of the Lord has happened, 42 months of Apollyon has happened, the world is in chaos and disarray. They need practical provisions, food, water, medicine. So this is why it talks about the trees of life inside the New Jerusalem are used for the medicine of the nations, for the healing of the nations. This is synonymous in Revelation 22 and Ezekiel 47.
mm,
So all the
okay.
nations, that's the huge qualifiers that all nations come to the descended kingdom out of heaven that has physical dimensions that sits down between the Euphrates and the Nile, the land promised Abraham. And in perpetuity throughout the millennial reign, they encamp around the beloved city, the city called Zion, or the New Jerusalem in the New Testament. And Christ rules from there over all those nations, which is the fulfillment of Psalm 2 and Isaiah 42 and Romans 15 and a whole bunch of other places. So once his kingdom is established on the earth, Daniel 7, it's never going away, ever, ever, ever.
And that's when Satan
Even
has his little season.
even after Satan's let out, he just gathers people to deceive them to try to attack the New Jerusalem, but that doesn't go well for him or the people that attack.
So it has
But the
to be
city
there
itself
established
doesn't
first.
go. Yeah,
Right.
exactly. The city is never
Okay.
going away. You're not going to hide a city that's 1,500 square miles, both in length, width, and height. You're not going to hide that anywhere on the earth, right? In fact, it's actually a flat Earth proof because you're going to be able to see that from anywhere of the circle of the Earth that you live, even Antarctica. It'll never be blocked by perspective. It's so tall. In my opinion, it might actually connect the first layer of firmament that encloses us. It might actually touch the city
Mm,
as it extends up because of the way it's described and everything. So to me, it'll the globe deception. Once the second coming of Christ happens in the city of God that Abraham looked for in Hebrews 11, once that descends to the earth and sits on the earth, never ever again will anyone ever be deceived by a heliocentric globe model. You'll always know that that's the city of God. It's called in Isaiah 62. It's called the city that's called the Lord our righteousness is there. It's called the married city, Isaiah 54 and other places. It's literally a shining light by which the nations will be able to walk in because the sun and moon will be circumnavigating the firmament above it and an exterior around the city for normal seasons upon the earth, for normal life on the earth outside of the city. But inside the city is described in Isaiah chapter 60 and Revelation 21 as have not needing the sun or moon, but being a city filled by the light of God. So it's going to be a natural nightlight, if you will, in the distance for all nations forever afterwards. The entire reality of what we know will be changed forever, according to the biblical description of the New Jerusalem. So even when Satan's let out, it's actually going to be more difficult for him to go and deceive the nations because
you have
they've-
that.
you have that
right
there,
there. Yeah.
literally in the backdrop, and you've had 1,000 years of generation after generation being taught that it's a part of your reality. You go there for the feast of God, as Ezekiel 40 through 46 talks about, Zechariah 14, Isaiah chapter 2. All nations are going to come to Zion to learn the ways of God. So, yeah,
So
unfortunately,
really, it's not possible.
the little season argument kind of takes some things out of context and ignores a whole bunch of other descriptions about the millennial reign.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, literally just started looking into this yesterday.
That's
I
okay,
have a
man.
question.
It's a common question that's been brought up in the last 5 years.
Oh, really? Okay.
Firmamentalist, what is your best guess as to like when Christ comes back again?
So if you guys want to have fun, you're welcome to check out my Investigating Babylon series. There's a playlist on
Ooh.
YouTube, and as well as my 42 series, which is the more advanced extension to the Babylon series. The Investigating Babylon series is like covering the basics, but then the 42 series, I go into more depth about some of these concepts. And so, in short, to answer your question, if at the current rate of culture and deception that we're at worldwide, my guess is that we still need another 70 to 100 years before the powers that be can be in a position to accomplish the things that they would need to fulfill the prophecies before the second coming.
Hmm.
So I go over the timelines, the qualifiers of those timelines, and a whole
Investigating
bunch of
Babylon.
yeah, it's called the Investigating Babylon series. Don't watch the presentation
Okay,
because that's a 2-hour summary. It's like one of the most popular videos on my channel.
I see
Actually,
that.
click
Yeah.
on the playlist and watch because it's a 21-part series. I know I'm asking a lot, guys, but if you have extra
Dude,
time,
you're good, bro. I'm subscribing. I got you.
We will
Yeah,
watch it
watch-
definitely.
Oh,
start
these
with episode 1 and make sure you watch all of them because it's a building conclusion. And actually, the conclusion of the episode of the Investigating Babylon series in parts 19 through 21, I actually address my theory for how eclipses happen on the flat Earth.
Oh,
But you have to watch all the other ones so you really understand what I'm saying, and you see all the evidence that I provide for why I come to that conclusion. So
Yeah, Sean, we started. I have watched the whole series, and we started to watch it Dom the other day. We started. I think
Yeah.
we're number
what?
2. Yeah.
Can you post it or
I will.
whatever?
I'm posting it.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, dude,
It's
I'm a
super
sucker for
good.
the content, bro. So nice.
I appreciate it, man. Yeah, I try to bring a historical, contextual approach to the scriptures and how the Israelites didn't exist in a vacuum. There's all these other cultures around them. You're right, all pun intended, right? So
Can y'all see my screen real quick? This is what I was going to talk about. Sorry to
Yeah.
just.
yeah, we
So
can
I'm
see
like
it.
moving my hand in a. Can you see it?
That you talking about the light on the wall?
Yeah.
No, you
and
gotta
the
share
dome.
your screen.
Can you see?
No, it's the camera, Andrew.
Oh, good.
It's kind of big. So basically, if I shoot the light in the dome through a clockwise rotation along the wall, like basically what's being like refracted out the other side, like if I'm doing it in a clockwise rotation, like on the
Can't
wall,
really see it
basically.
yet.
I don't know.
Your
I have
hand's
like
blocking it.
I'm
Oh,
holding
there.
it with my knees. Ugh, I'm trying.
You need a cameraman.
Yeah.
Essentially,
Go wake up Dan.
he's
Go get him
sleeping.
up.
He has a test tomorrow.
I know. I'm just kidding.
Okay. I don't know. I just was trying to demonstrate how if I move it through the dome in a clockwise fashion, like the reflection that would be coming out of the top is moving counterclockwise.
Oh, I see that. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm moving the dome. I'm trying to make it like maybe if I do it over here. Can y'all see this?
All I know is you're getting a workout.
Yeah, I feel like I'm in a rave from like 1998.
Okay, so I'm doing it through the dome clockwise fashion, and what's coming out of the side is a counterclockwise rotation. Let me see if I can do it more demonstrable.
You're if you can move the camera to the left a bit. There you go. Oh, how it comes out in a counterclockwise rotation.
I'm moving it through
Yeah.
clockwise. So this would be along the edge, kind of like hitting the dome up here, right here,
Mm-hmm.
right? See? So if I'm
Oh,
shooting
so
it
the laser light's on top.
yeah,
It's
on
from the
top. So
top.
I'm shooting it in a clockwise manner, and off the edge on the side, it comes out in a counterclockwise manner.
Interesting.
This is very easy to replicate, this part. So that would be hitting it up here. That's what they'd be seeing counterclockwise
It
around
would
the
make
edge.
sense
See
that
how
the
I'm
light
shooting?
source. Yeah, it would make sense the light source is top down.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is the biblical description. That's why actually what Duffy tried to rebut Hamvee's model to say, oh, it's not accurate because you don't have the light inside the dome. But that's just Will Duffy's bad understanding of biblical cosmology.
I can't
The
wait to
Bible,
see that.
So
yeah, the
I'm
Bible doesn't
shooting it in there
describe.
I'm just saying, like, I'm shooting it in the dome.
Yeah.
Like, right? And then so like I'm doing it clockwise, and then like what's being refracted out of it is counterclockwise rotation off the sides.
Right.
Okay, so
Yeah, that's why I'm going to try to buy
yeah, sorry
some
to
of those
distract.
domes and do some experimenting because I'm wondering if a second layer will
I was-
change anything.
Dude, I told Joe about that too. Like if he ever had like a dome within a dome within a dome,
Yeah,
and see what kind of things.
yeah.
Know.
Even one of the early church fathers, Irenaeus, in the 2nd century, he describes the cosmological model as having 7 layers of heaven, 7
Right.
layers.
Yep.
So it's also consistent with the Testament of Levi and other testimony. So that's why the Most High is called the Most High. He lives at the highest point of the creation model. That's why his tabernacle, his house, is at the heaven of heavens. He's at the top layer.
Yep.
So it's pretty interesting concept. But so yeah, just in short, real quick though, it seems as if, and I hope I'm wrong. I hope that we have more time. In my opinion, I hope it's not just 70 or 100 years for my children's sake. I hope that we have more. I hope I'm completely wrong about that, but I'm not basing that off of any scripture because no one knows the day or the hour.
Right.
I'm basing that off of the progression from the enemy and the machinations that they have to put in place to achieve what's prophesied for worldwide total control. That's what I'm basing it on. So,
I mean, the
yeah.
one world government pretty much has been established, but there's still like little kinks. Like,
Yeah, they
if
don't
you
have
want-
total control, and they don't have the technology set in place yet to truly have total control. Like it
Right.
could be rebelled against and busted out of in no time. But that's actually where I start the conversation in my 42 series. So the Investigating Babylon series, I go from episode 1 to episode 21. But then
Okay.
the 42 series is I go from episode 21 and it's a countdown, and I'm still actually adding installments to that series. And so
Nice.
when I get down to episode 1 of the 42 series, it'll be the second coming of Christ and the day of the Lord and all the details about that. So that's why I call it the 42, because it's the 42 months leading up to the second coming, and all the events really kick off at that point. And so that's where I try to break everything down.
Yeah, man. I honestly heard your name floating around, chilling in here in these discussions and stuff, but I never actually sat down and watched your content. But you seem like a really cool dude, so I'll definitely give you that.
Yeah,
that
Sean is
courtesy.
awesome. I've watched a lot of his stuff, even though I'm not.
Oh, cool.
I wouldn't consider myself a Bible person. I'm not an atheist. I'm not stupid. But I have done a lot of Bible research, and one of the things, upon popular request from Taylor specifically, who is awesome, I'm going to be doing the next trivia, and that's going to be biblically related again. That'll be the second one I've done. And if you guys want any Bible trivia right now from the previous ones, and Taylor was kicking ass and taking names in the previous one, you guys want a little
Let's
bit?
go. Bible trivia
Oh, this
sounds
is
nice.
great. Look. Oh,
Okay,
it's
these
cool.
are
Bible
the previous,
trivia. Ooh.
yeah,
all
these
right.
are the questions I already asked, and Taylor got like 75% of them. So
All right, let's see if Kingdom's got. Let's see if Sean's got this. You might
Well,
recall you,
I
Sean.
always start off with an inspirational quote, and that is, and this is from 1 Corinthians 13, 4 through 7. Love is patient, love is kind. It does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud. It does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always preserves. And again, that's from 1 Corinthians 13, 4 through 7.
Nice.
Wow,
Okay.
that was so beautiful.
Do you see how everything's circling around Polaris? Like, this is what I call Polaris.
Oh,
It's like no matter what, there's a central point in the middle that doesn't move. That everything circles around.
well,
Pretty cool.
That's what I was talking
Polaris
about.
does actually move a tiny, tiny little
Look, it's
bit.
still moving a tiny bit. It's still moving
Yeah.
a tiny bit. But like
Are you
everything is moving
suggesting-
around it.
Are you suggesting the sun somehow is connected to Polaris?
Look, this is what like
I
and
think
it's
so, to be
actually
honest.
inside the glass. Like it's not even just on top of the glass. It's actually within it.
My
Yep.
just humble idea.
This is actually pretty cool when I first saw this.
Go ahead, Dom.
I honestly think that like a sun and moon, we don't see the source of the light. I think it's like we see just a reflection of, I would say, and I am quoting. My English is not great. Like some kind of a projector, and it's the light is actually like dividing from the Polaris. My idea is like the Polaris is some kind of a glass who's actually like making making moon and sun. It's like some energy is going to the Polaris, and it's dividing to like these two luminaries. I think like sun and moon are actually like some kind of a reflection.
Oh, can somebody
and it's
screen record
everything.
my phone?
Uh,
Trying to get this perfect, but I think I got a pretty good one. You can even see in the edge the counterclockwise rotation.
Yeah.
You're putting me into a trance, Taylor.
Yeah. Yeah, I know, right?
I'm gonna eat some chocolates right now.
So
Look at this. Can y'all see? Look at the very edge.
yes, Taylor.
I'm
Yeah,
trying to get
that's
a
actually
perfect circle.
very interesting. But
Andrew, did you have some trivia for us?
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
waiting.
I
Don't
didn't
eat
want
those
to.
chocolates quite yet.
Did you get it, Biastically, so I could quit?
I didn't
I-
want to
I
interrupt
can't.
Taylor though.
I don't have a screen record option.
No, it's actually really interesting. It's just we can't see the right side of it. It's like
Yeah,
you're focusing on the left side.
but I'm.
Oh. Well,
Yeah,
I
I'm
mean,
not-
I have one hand.
But I'm not. I don't have. I don't have.
You have 2 hands.
I don't have screen. I have to.
I don't think I can screen record while I'm screen sharing.
You can just record it yourself, Taylor, and get the optimal.
Yeah, yeah. Just.
Okay, I'm gonna let y'all go. I'm gonna record this and I'm gonna come back.
Oh. Oh, there you go.
Oh, thank you, New
Perspective's got it.
Perspective. You're awesome.
He's the recorder. Cool.
Gotta
All
watch
right.
what you say around this guy. Yeah.
All right, Andrew. Hit us with one. Come on.
Okay. 1, I got a lot,
Oh, and if you know the answer, just say ding. By the way.
or whatever. These,
Or just answer it. Screw it.
yeah, it's fine. This is a trivia we already did. Anyways, what is 1 Kings 3:16 through 28 all about?
Oh, is that when Elijah calls down fire?
No.
No, that's chapter 18.
1 Kings 3. Oh man, it sounds so familiar.
Taylor, you were seriously rocking like so good last time. I
I'm
was
not
asking
good
you.
at like chapter and verse. I'm good at like any content, like almost any content, just not
You got
chapter and
almost
verse.
every question correct though.
What was? Could you repeat the question?
Yes. What is 1 Kings 3, 16 through 28 all about?
10 Commandments. No, not 10 Commandments. I'm tripping.
No,
I don't remember, but it sounds very familiar. I'm gonna be really
I had to
honest.
get a lot of help with these questions, so don't worry. I wouldn't have done this.
Solomon marries Pharaoh's daughter.
King Solomon
It's about
and
Solomon.
Sheba,
No. Okay.
the Song of Songs.
Bathsheba,
So,
It's
David.
one of the
Oh.
first Bible things I ever learned about when I was growing up.
is it
All right,
about
go
when
for
the angel visits Solomon and
It
gives
has to
him
do with a
choice?
baby.
I don't know.
It's the three
Oh,
wise men.
No, it's the two mothers that are arguing over the baby they claim it's both theirs, and so Solomon suggests that they cut it in half.
Cut it in half.
And then
Yep.
that's how you know
And
whose
the
baby
Who the
it
real
was.
mother is.
Would
Right.
give it up to save the child.
Oh yeah,
Ooh, 1 point
that's
for
a great
Sean.
story.
Next question is, what does Paul say is the fulfillment of the law?
Love.
Yeah, and
Yep.
you got that last time too. You're like, right to it.
All right,
I'm
one
gonna
for
skip
Taylor.
over
Wait, what was the answer again?
Love.
love. Yeah. Which goes into the previous inspirational quote that I just quoted from 1 Corinthians 13, 4-7. Anyways, let's go on to the next one. I'm skipping over all the other ones that are not biblical. How many books are in the New Testament?
Uh,
5?
No. Way more.
Shit.
47.
33.
No?
Ah, shit.
I don't
Don't
wanna
feel
Google
bad
it.
if you
I
don't know this. I mean, these are hard questions.
These are
This was
pretty
a
hard.
2v2 trivia. All 4 contestants are hardcore Christians, but even some of them weren't able to. How many are in the New Testament?
That's the total. Yeah, it's just a New Testament.
If everyone's done guessing, I'll shut
All
out
right.
27.
All right,
Nice.
it's 27.
Nice.
27.
All right, 2 for Sean.
According to
It's
the gospel,
it's nice how how Sean's like let us guess, and it's like okay, I get it. If you're done guessing,
it's all right.
I can tell you.
I do this stuff for fun because I consider myself to be autodidactic. Anyways,
I'm ready.
according to the Gospels, what is the unique literary genre that Jesus employs to preach his message?
So this
Parables.
isn't
That's correct. The parable.
Boom.
Yeah, nice.
Nice.
And
What
the
is
next
it?
question.
A parable.
Repeat the answer, please.
Parables.
What is a
Parable.
My phone got up back. Sorry.
So this
Parable is like a
question,
riddle, by the way, Rick. Sorry, go ahead, Andrew.
No way. Jesus speaks in riddles. He's a riddler.
You would say here's a parable though.
it's like an anecdotal story that has it's not fake information, but it's anecdotally related to draw the point
Yeah.
out. So this is where we
Nice.
get the interpretive problems of modern scholarship, where they'll claim that, well, the parables aren't telling you real information; it's just a teaching of Jesus. And I'm like, wait a minute. So that means he was alluding. If it's not real information, and you're because it's a parable, then you're alluding to him teaching false ideas.
Which is
So like
so
it has to
incorrect.
be
Yeah.
relatively correct to the actual doctrine of his father to be a real idea, just in an anecdotal story as a parable. Anyway, sorry, that's a debate issue I struggle with many pastors that try to
no problem.
No worries.
Religion, the Bible, everything else is very deep-seated types of conversations, which I like a lot. Hence the reason I actually did
No,
this.
you can talk about it within an hour and get everything down. What are you talking about?
I actually have a
Just give me an
question
hour.
for Sean. It's like do you feel it's like religion debates, like either Christianity or something like. Are these debates like more tense than flat Earth debates, or it's like the same thing? Because I know that flat Earth is a religion thing as well.
It's about the
Like
same.
these debates, globe flat versus flat. So it's like the same, or it's worse, or
Domo, your audio is going in and out like you're moving away from your microphone.
I was just gonna say, did you hear me earlier in Earth Awakenings having to defend Christianity to like 10 atheists?
I think he was asking Sean.
They're much worse. Sorry, Sean.
No, it's okay.
Anyway.
So I've done I've done quite a few debates with pastors on my channel and even PhDs that are scholars and professors, and it just depends on who you're talking to. The audience gets really tense watching them because they have emotions attached to the doctrine that could be being challenged at the time. Whereas a debate like Globe versus Flat Earth, um, usually it's just globies spewing hatred, slander, and mockery.
Right.
And some you do get that sometimes from flat Earth people too, but usually the flat Earth people are trying to actually present the truth in an organized manner in order to share truth, but and they're not just focusing on mocking you like the globies are. So it's a little different vibe when you're arguing with in a religious pastoral professor context. But the people in the audience after the debates, they'll message me and they'll say, I don't like you doing debates because it makes me so tense, and it like emotionally gives them emotional turmoil because like if I'm debating a topic that their family holds to that topic, they don't want to be shown that that topic is untrue and that it's just a man-made tradition, because then they feel like they're put in an awkward position to have to talk to their family about it, and I'm just like, bro, just should like you don't
Truth
have to
is the
be
truth.
you don't have to be everyone's Holy Spirit. Like the Holy Spirit speaks to people as God determines, and we're not assigned to be everybody's Holy Spirit. So let your family come to their own. Let them walk out their own discipleship on their own pace, their own learning curve, and you just study what pertains to you, and you just work on your discipleship. And I try to calm people down in that way. Um, so it's kind of a mixed bag to try to answer you, No Globe. It's like a lot of people don't like me doing the debates because it gives them such emotional turmoil, and other people want me to do more of them to expose how much of this philosophy and man-made tradition has infiltrated the church and gets people to like away from what the Bible's actually saying.
Did you come from a more solus scriptoris kind of perspective, as Taylor would say?
Are you saying solo or solas?
Solas. I can't pronounce it, but
So,
I like that perspective a lot, where it's just about scripture. Like, what does it actually say in scripture?
so to my understanding, solo scriptura would be just scripture only, where sola scriptura incorporates other concepts, including church tradition and opinions of the church fathers and things like that, and church councils.
Solo.
So then I would say solo. Yeah, I like
so
solo scriptors then.
Yeah, so what the Orthodox and the Catholics have done in centuries past is they've taken a passage in Timothy, I think it's Second Timothy, talk about no scriptures of private interpretation. And what they do with that passage, how they interpret it to their own advantage, is they'll say, "Well, see, you can't interpret the Bible because the pastors and deacons are supposed to interpret it for you." So that's how it's not of a private interpretation. But the Bible interprets itself. So that's actually the context of what Paul's trying to communicate. He's not saying that you have to trust some man over here to tell you what it means. He's saying, like, all scripture is God breathed, useful for correction, teaching, training, and rebuking in righteousness, which means you're going to know how to actually read the rest of scripture if you're studying scripture, because it's all synonymous. It's all the same message.
Right.
So that's kind of like a power play that the Orthodox and Catholics use within their own camps to point people to their own leadership, to say, we're going to interpret the Bible for you.
Right.
Are you Catholic?
definitely powerful.
Oh,
Kingdom
no.
in context?
No, I'm not Catholic.
No, I don't think so.
I had one question earlier that I wanted to ask you, but we can let Andrew keep going with his trivia if y'all like. I don't want to interrupt.
Yeah, sorry, Andrew. What do you have?
No worries. I'm very patient.
I love Andrew's trivia.
Just on an interesting note, is it kind of curious that Catholics don't really get, like, just in general, don't get involved in too much conspiracy? Like, I don't see too many Catholics hanging around in these chat rooms.
You know
don't
why,
they
right?
own conspiracy?
Wait, why?
Because all roads lead to Rome, bro. You're gonna
Like, yeah,
you're gonna
we already
you're gonna
know
get
the
to the
answer.
Vatican at some point, and they can't have that.
Yeah, no, very true. Have you ever heard of the Fuel Project?
No.
Know thy enemy, or oh, dude, that's a great series too. I'll have to give you that. We were watching it. Fuel Project.
Hey, new perspective. Can you send me the last clip in that video where I said, "Can somebody screen record this?" Because I'd like to have that.
Oh, Know Your Enemy. That's what it's called. Sorry.
Yeah, thank you so much. And then I'll send it to him.
Let me tell you, this playlist, Sean. Man, I'm gonna watch your playlist too. Like, I'm so super excited about investigating Babylon. This one we started. We got me and Galatrax got up to like, and Taylor. We got up to like what part 70 or something like that, right? Taylor, if you remember. I'm gonna send this
Yeah,
to
we
you.
got pretty high. I think we watched the whole thing.
I think I have to catch up, but
Wait, you got high and watched it, or you got pretty high in the playlist?
No,
pretty
we
pretty
just
high in the
pretty high
playlist.
up in the numbers on this episodes.
But no,
Well,
it's great.
maybe if some other people want to watch it, we could like have watch parties or something.
Lily, we do watch parties all the time in the morning, but you're always sleeping or doing stuff. But that's okay.
I'm
Yeah,
not
so
sleeping.
anyone in here that's seen the Investigating Babylon series, please don't ruin the ending for anyone that's not seen it. Let them work their way through it so they can
Please
give you an
don't.
honest take. 'Cause
No spoilers.
if you tell them the ending about what I conclude causes the eclipses and how that works, they're not going to watch the rest of it, and they're not going to have any point of context. It's just going to sound strange. It's not going to make sense. So,
Huh.
please,
Brother, it's so hard not to spoil that though.
Sam,
Yeah.
don't you do it, man. Don't do it.
Don't
Don't
give it
jackal
away.
I've
us.
been holding my tongue forever with that.
Please don't. All right, Andrew, trivia.
Okay.
All right.
And by the way, Sean, I'm going to send you a private message just to let you know who I am. My name's Andrew Baker, and we do the trivia for, the tinfoil sombrero. I'm not sure if you've been on there yet, but
Oh, sweet, with Lowry. Yeah, he's supposed to have me on at some point. We've been talking the last couple of weeks.
yeah, we've got like 8 people scheduled in the future, but yeah, we would love to have you on. We've talked about that privately, off air and
Awesome.
stuff, and yeah,
Awesome.
your
Well,
name has
great to
been
meet
brought
you.
up multiple times. So, yeah, well, we'll get to that. Anyways,
And
let's continue.
his girl Nicole is hilarious. She's like comic relief, man.
Yeah, she's like the alpha male and female at the same time. Like
she's got more dad jokes than I've got.
yeah, and sometimes we have to. I've even told her like off air, like, hey, Nicole, you gotta relax a little bit. There's other people that have a voice.
Wow.
Anyways, let's continue on. So this
Check
is a
that out.
question that was sent to me from Lion, who's here on Discord. Lion of Yah.
Not anymore.
Not anymore?
He's taking a hiatus.
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah,
Okay.
hopefully Lion is okay. Yeah, shout out to Lion.
All right. Well, I got his number. I'll text him. I haven't heard. But anyways, who was the... By the way, he's also a very, very devout Christian. Very knowledgeable in the Bible. So this question I would have never gotten. Who was the controversial figure that was excommunicated from the Christian church in Rome around 144 AD for his radical views and rejection of many accepted scriptures?
Oh, it
Marcus
was the Gnostic. No, it was the Gnostic guy. What's his name?
Oh, Taylor said something.
Marcus Aurelius?
No, he was the Roman emperor.
No, it's not Marcus Aurelius.
No, it's
But it does
I don't
start.
know.
It does
I'm not
start
good
with
with these
an M.
church fathers.
Wait, you know the answer, Sean?
I might.
He's so nice. He's not even answering it.
Yeah, this is a hard one, but you guys are you're gonna like, oh, I knew that. It's like then in the back of your brain kind of situation. You guys just want the answer and move on to the next one?
Well, hold on. Let Sean answer if he knows it.
Are you talking about Marcion?
There you go.
I actually didn't know that.
Well done.
Marcion actually, he took some of Paul's letters and some of the Gospels and made his own version of them. That's the only way he had any scriptures for his little cult. He also is someone that Irenaeus addresses in Against Heresies as believing that the two covenants were dissimilar. the old covenant and the new covenant, that they were dissimilar, and that basically the God of the Old Testament was different than Jesus and what they taught, and the covenants evolved. He had a lot of wonky doctrines with his heresies.
Interesting. That's one of the things I love about doing the trivia is that I learn from doing the trivia. Like that's researching it, putting it out, cross-checking it on multiple websites and whatnot, and asking people. And then people have a whole bunch of other like side notes that I love hearing.
Yeah, basically because they didn't have the internet back then, so they had these communities of Christians that would pop up with limited scriptural knowledge, and then they would just fill in the blanks, and that's where Gnosticism got really rampant in the 2nd century, and that's
Really?
why Irenaeus had to come in with and write this big book called Against Heresies, which he basically in the 2nd century was addressing all these different camps of Christians that came up with like all these wild interpretations that weren't scripturally founded, and that's what Against Heresies is about. It's basically him making refutation videos to bad doctrine in the 2nd century.
Is this
That's what's
like where sort of Masonic clans started sort of forming? I always thought it was through the craft movement, but it seems to be a reason as well, like through this sort of Christian diaspora, that you end up with all these little nooks and crannies, essentially.
Well, doesn't the Masons, tell me if I'm wrong from my little limited research on Masonry, but don't they blend themselves into different societies and religions?
Yep.
Yeah, essentially secret societies, but I think that at least there is some connection with the notion that when Christianity has been outlawed, you need to operate in secrecy. So you've also got an aspect going on there as well.
Yeah, the only difference though is the Deuteronomy chapter 23, I think it's verse 17 in the Septuagint specifically. It talks about initiates are an abomination to Yahweh.
Yeah.
And it's speaking specifically about secret societies, which go way back to the days of Zeus, Ra, and Baal worship. So the modern form of Masonry, I think, has evolved over time. I think the
Theosophy and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's modern terminology, but like old school initiation into the cults of like the priesthoods of Zeus and Ra, I think it was a different look back then, and I don't think they were persecuted. I think those people had privilege within because they were worshiping the pagan gods. But that's just my limited research on the history of Masonry.
Yeah, I'm telling you, dude, that 88 that part series I sent you, that know your enemy, really like very succinct, full of information, cuts right to the point. About how certain aspects of cultures throughout time, basically, how Satan uses either the passive or the aggressive approach, depending on the power. So yeah, it's really interesting. But I digress. Andrew, I'm ready. Ready, bro.
No problem. I do like a little bit of the debriefing kind of situation that happens. And this is probably an easy one. And this was from Flatman B, who's also taking a little bit of a hiatus from the internet for at least the last 6 months.
I wish him well. I pray for him.
Hey, he's doing well. I've talked to him, but just dealing with him and his kids. So, why was Samson's hair cut?
Take his strength.
To take away his power. His strength.
Same kind of answer, yeah. To make him lose his power.
Simping for Delilah.
For the what?
No, everyone's correct. He was simping for Delilah.
You ratted him out.
I didn't hear that. Sorry. Could you repeat that a little louder?
He was a sucker for love.
Simping. You know simping, Liliana? When you simp for a girl, like you basically just emasculate yourself for the attention of a woman.
De-emasculate.
See? Cut your hair off. That's what happens, okay?
I don't know. That's debatable. But whatever.
Wait. Where is Samson in the Bible? What chapter?
I don't know. It was sent to me by Flatman B.
Well, it's in Judges
13 through 17.
Okay, cool.
Wow, Sean, you're awesome with that.
Okay. Andrew's like, I don't know. I wasn't asking you, Andrew.
By the way, my other nickname is Word Nerd.
Word nerd. All right.
When I was writing these questions,
Fermentalists.
I had to use the internet, I had to read the Bible, and I was also asking a lot of people for potential trivia questions because it was a 2v2. Anyways, let's continue on. These are only biblical. I'm going to skip through all the other flat earth stuff unless you want that stuff as well.
You can do a couple.
All right, flat earth sort of question. What term is used to describe the angular distance north or south from the celestial equator measured along a great circle passing through the celestial poles?
The obliquity of the ecliptic.
I'll read it again.
Azimuth.
What term is used to describe
Oh,
the
the
angular?
azimuth. Yeah.
What term is used to describe the angular distance north or south from the celestial equator measured along a great circle passing through the celestial poles?
I think Sean said it right. The azimuth.
Nope.
Ooh.
You said this is a biblical term or just a flat Earth term?
This is
This
just
is
like
flat
a
Earth.
geometric flat Earth. Even globe Earth doesn't really matter. It's just the definition
Yeah,
to
as I
this
say, you're
one
talking
word.
about celestial poles, so this isn't flat Earth, right?
It starts
No,
with a
no.
D.
That's not what I thought.
It's one word. All right.
Declination.
That's the answer. Is declination.
All right.
And by the way,
you're
the
talking
next
about-
trivia, I cannot tell you much about it because I've been sworn to secrecy, but it might take a little bit longer than I've been doing recently. So it might be a couple months.
Okay.
But we'll be fully prepared for it. I'll make sure that it's a banger, as I always try to do.
Yes, sir.
Next biblical question is, this is probably pretty easy for a lot of people, but it's a two-part question. What is the shortest verse in the Bible, and where would you find it in the Bible?
Oh.
Let me know when you guys are ready.
Yeah, this is.
Oh, he's got it already. No, just say it, bro.
What is it?
John 11:35. Jesus wept.
Oh my goodness! Wow.
I'm really
You don't have
happy
a
you know
Bible in
that, though.
front of you at the moment. Are you just rehearsing this just from knowledge?
Yeah, I've been studying the Bible since 1997.
You got like the hard drive USB thing. You got the.
Yo, seriously? I was 2 years old. That's wild.
Yeah, as much as you guys study flat Earth, I've been studying the Bible. So it's
Fair
kind of
enough.
been a OCD obsession for me.
That's good enough. Yeah, I study electricity every single day. If you were to see my YouTube search watch history, you'd be like, "What's wrong with you, Andrew?"
Actually, I would love to learn more about electricity too.
I can teach you.
I'm trying
for
to
free.
expand and broaden my knowledge base, but because I have several ideas for inventions, but I don't know how to begin because I have to learn some different skills.
I have a degree in this, and I'm also a teacher.
Yeah, you teach. Andrew's your guy if you have
Awesome.
any electricity questions.
Yeah, I
If
teach
you want to learn
electricity. Anyways,
about evidence of God and science, just hit me up.
yes,
Yeah, a few
ma'am.
years ago, I went into a university. I used to live in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I went into Oral Roberts University, and I requested a meeting with the head of the Department of Physics and the head of the Department of Mathematics, and I asked them. I gave a presentation for them because I have this basically it's like a water pump that works on gravity. I mean, obviously, back then I used to call it gravity, but basically it just works on the buoyancy concept, and it basically be like a perpetual energy until evaporation happens to the point where it would stop. And I showed them my schematics and my drawings, and I made them sign an NDA, and I was like, "Can you guys find a problem with this design and with how this works? And am I just crazy?" And they looked at it for like 30 minutes, and they're like, I don't see anything wrong with it. They're like, "Have you modeled this yet?" And I was like, "Well, I wanted to see if you guys would be interested in your classes to try to model it and test it." And they basically did not do that, but they said they couldn't find anything wrong with it. And they asked me, like, "Where'd you get this idea?" I said, "From Genesis 2." And they're like, "What?" I was like, "Yeah, man, it's Genesis 2. It talks about the design of the earth and the waters and the springs. It's like basically just kind of like the just as the springs would be popping up from the ground, that's based off pressure and water and everything. I'm just recreating that in a unit that you can put in your garage and power all your small electrical needs with
I
perpetual
will
energy.
definitely help you out with that anytime you want, man. For free. Don't ever request. I'm sorry. I will never request monetary gain from it whatsoever. But keep doing that. I got to use the restroom real quick, and then I'm gonna start with some more biblical trivia.
Cool.
Okay, it might be a good time for me to ask you this question then. So I was watching your debate on the serpent seed line, and basically, you don't believe in the serpent seed line. However, I was wondering if you believe in the Nephilim and that the Nephilim basically tribes existed.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's
So
actually two
wouldn't that
different
kind of
types
be
of
like the serpent seed in itself?
Well, depends on which argument of serpent seed you're going for. Now, Zen Garcia's argument is that uh, Samael was the name of the angel in the garden who actually had sex with Eve. That's his argument for serpent seed, and that there's another race of mankind that was birthed because Cain was the birth product of that unholy union. That's what Zen's idea of serpent seed is, and that somehow still that the progressed or procreated somehow and made it through the flood, so that there's still descendants of Cain on the earth today who are basically it's like Calvinism talks about the elect and the unelect, and Zen's idea of serpent seed. There's still, even after the flood, there's still people on the earth who are descendants of Cain, and therefore they're damned. They're not actually able to have salvation because they're birthed of an unholy union. So he takes some of the descriptions from First Enoch, but he imports other texts that I don't think pass the theological muster test, nor even the historical manuscript test. Specifically, books like the books of First and Second Adam and Eve, which are 5th century Gnostic texts. So that's how he comes to his conclusion. But what I showed in that debate was that he actually draws upon other books like Jubilees, which completely refutes his theory, because it directly tells you in Jubilees that Adam and Eve didn't have sex when they were in the garden. And in fact, they didn't even start having children until like 40 plus years after they were kicked out of the garden. So that means Cain was not a product. Yeah, Jubilees. Cain was not a product of the serpent having sex with Eve, because no one had sex in the garden, and then Adam and Eve didn't have Cain until 40 plus years after they exited the garden.
Okay, so
So
you believe that there could be offsprings
Yeah.
of the fall in Genesis 6 even after the flood?
Yeah,
That's
so
a great
real quick.
question. Yeah.
But
Yeah,
just not okay, so the angels could have interacted with humans after interacted with humans in Genesis 6, but that's not Genesis 3 is kind of your argument.
Yeah, so now Genesis 3, no babies were born out of Genesis 3. Okay, that's my argument. But let's talk about the Nephilim real quick. Jubilees 5, Genesis 6, and First Enoch chapter 6 and 7 detail the concept of the rebellious angels, the watchers who took wives and had children, had offspring by them, called the Nephilim. These were not normal men. These pre-flood Nephilim were considered unclean spirits. So this is what both Enoch chapters 9 through 15, as well as Jubilees chapter 10, describe in great depth, is how these were the offspring of the watchers who took wives, and that what was birthed was unclean spirits.
Well,
So
after the flood, once they died, they were
yes,
unclean spirits that roamed the earth, right?
yes, they lost their
From the
bodies.
get-go.
So after the flood, they're called disembodied unclean spirits. These were the former bodied Nephilim from before the flood. Now they're forever disembodied, and we can generically refer to them as demons going forward. But you do see Nephilim mentioned again in Numbers 13:33 and Deuteronomy 3 and other places in after the flood. And that is what is described in First Enoch chapters 7, where it talks about how I think it's 7 verses 2 and 3, where it talks about the watchers took wives, they taught them the art of enchantments and cutting of roots, and the women became pregnant and bare giants.
Right.
So if you look into the science of root cutting, which is a well-established thing, it actually, there's 5 different growth hormones that affect the growth of an embryo in the womb. And it's ethylene, abscisic acid, octans. I don't think I'm saying that right. Octans, gibberellins, and one other I can't think of right now. But basically, it's in the roots of plants and trees. Those 5 growth hormones determine how deep the roots grow, how thick the base of the tree or the plant grows, how tall it grows before it starts to sprout limbs, how far the limbs grow out before they start to bud leaves. All the different 3 dimensions of growth within trees and plants. These 5 growth hormones are explicitly a part of their growth. So the art of cutting of roots is that you take those growth hormones and you affect them to other things, and it actually affects its growth. And so gibberellins, this is kind of a little known fact, but gibberellins heavily studied by the U.S. military and is actually one of the key ingredients in Miracle Grow that you can buy at Home Depot.
Interesting.
So wait,
you can
so-
actually Jubilees chapter 8 verses 1 through 4 alludes to a guy named Canaan or Kenan. He's only mentioned in the Septuagint in Genesis 10 and Luke chapter 3 as part of being the descendancy of Shem. And he's not in the Masoretic for some reason. He's missing. But he's in Jubilees, he's in Luke 3, and he's in Genesis 10 in the Septuagint. And he says that he was someone that found the teachings of the Watchers on a rock after the flood, and he started practicing the things thereon, but he didn't tell Noah about it because he knew Noah would be upset with him. So, teachings of the Watchers survived the flood and are repracticed again. And then this is also in the days of Nimrod. He's called Nebrod, Nebrod, in Jubilees chapter 8. And because that's the Greek transliteration of Nimrod. But the Jubilees was translated from Greek. And so this is where you have the setting post-flood is they started practicing the ways of the Watchers again. Azazel, whom the Hebrews refer to as the Satan character, he's still out roaming around seeking whom he may devour. He was one of the 200, but he got a different punishment in First Enoch chapter 9, whereas Samyaza did take a wife, and all of his other cohorts did take a wife. That's why they were punished and locked away in Tartarus, as 1 Peter 2 talks about. But Samyaza, or the Satan character, did not take a wife. He taught mankind warfare and the art of cutting roots, which is basically genetic manipulation to create chimeras, hybrids, giants, and Nephilim. But he didn't actually take a wife and participate in that type of great sin, so he got a different punishment. And so he's still out after the flood, influencing mankind, even during the days of the Tower of Babel. Jubilees chapter 10, verse 10 through 12 talks about how a tenth of the remaining unclean spirits, the disembodied spirits of the Nephilim, were put under his control to do his bidding to try to tempt mankind. And so this is where someone like Canaan is influenced by unclean spirits and finds the teachings of the Watchers, start practicing this stuff again. And immediately during that generation, which is around the time of the Tower of Babel, you start to see in historical evidences, you start to see the Nephilim coming about again.
So you think that's just from some root cutting that they had Nephilim after the flood?
The Nephilim before the flood are unclean spirits. The Nephilim after the flood are genetically modified men.
Okay, how'd they get genetically modified? Just the root cutting?
That's the concept of cutting roots, where you can affect the growth hormones in gestation of a woman. You give them a certain type of growth hormone, and it affects the baby in gestation. So and there's actually been TED Talks done about this. I actually reviewed one on my channel at one time. It was from 2011. There's a lady named, I think her name is Janice Griffith. No relation to me. My last name is Griffin with an N. But she actually talked about how there's different types of ways within they've discovered in science that you basically can turn off. Like there's growth inhibitors in our DNA, but if you flip the switch on it by introducing growth hormones, you can turn off those growth inhibitors and we would just grow bigger and stronger. And the evidence of this is in modern day ligers. Anyone know what a liger is?
A liger?
Lion
it's a mixture
tiger?
between a lion and a tiger. And so what they've discovered is if they have a male lion and a female tiger, that it does this hormonally within the genetics of the offspring. It turns off the growth inhibitor in the liger that's born as a result of that mixing. and then they grow 2-3 times bigger than a normal lion or tiger. And actually, I'm from Oklahoma, and there's an actual exotic animal reserve in Oklahoma that has 4 ligers. And so they're like 900 pounds. They're like 3 times the size of a normal lion. And they don't have any problems. They don't have any joint issues. They don't have
It's
any
wild.
brain defects or hormonal issues, or there's no problems with their organs. They're just bigger, faster, scarier, stronger.
Just by like genetic mixing?
Because of the specific genetic mixing, it turns off the growth inhibitors that's in all things. So a part of the DNA, it tells you like how tall you're going to be and to stop at that height, right? How far your arms are going to grow and to stop at that length. How thick your hips are going to grow and to stop at that thickness. But if you affect it with added growth hormones, then you're going to change that. And that's how you create giants who are just men. They're not spiritual beings. They're not. So this is another concept that's not really taught in a lot of churches, is that there's two. Paul mentions this in 1 Corinthians 15, that there's 2 types of ontologies in all of creation. There's the earthy, or what's called the natural, and there's the spiritual. So angels, they have a body that can look like a man, but yet they can disappear and reappear and fly and do all this crazy stuff and shine like fire. And they have a different type of ontology. They're a spiritual being. But mankind, we're natural. We're born of the earth, born of the dirt of the earth. We have lots of limitations that spiritual beings don't have. The unclean spirits that were the Nephilim before the flood are described as unclean spirits, not just unclean men. So the Nephilim after the flood are, in my research, from everything I just tried to explain to you, the progression of events leading up to the reappearance of the Nephilim after the flood, is that they're just big men. So the Nephilim before the flood,
say like that there were giants in those days, or Nephilim in those days and after, like it was the same nature.
Yeah, well, to call something a giant doesn't mean that the giants are made of the same ontology. So this is why I'm trying to. I know I'm walking through a lot of information really quickly. So this is why if you study 1 Enoch 6-15, it specifically expresses that the unclean spirits that were birthed from the Watchers taking wives before the flood, those were unclean spirits, and those were. It even describes them that they're not fully human, they're not fully angelic, that they're a hybrid, they're a mix, and that they'll never be able to ascend to heaven like angels can, and they're not intended, so they're not going to be able to inherit the earth. They're essentially doomed. They're born damned. This is why the word Nephilim in its root Hebrew is called the fallen. So what's interesting though is if you look at the Hebrew word for the Nephilim after the flood, it's spelled slightly different, because some people assume that it's trying to communicate something different. But I would just say, from the abundance of Israelite literature between Enoch, Jubilees, and Genesis, and how it tells you the progression of events of how they picked up the teachings of the Watchers after the flood because they found them written on rocks, then they're going to start producing giants again. But
didn't it say there were evil spirits after they died?
So this is what I was trying to explain. So the unclean spirits have bodies before the flood. So this is what, is anyone familiar with the idea of the golem?
The golem?
Yeah, golem. It's
Golem.
like clay person, and you put a shame in it, and it actually started to be alive. It's
right.
Well known in Czech and Slovakia.
Is that related to the homunculus too?
Yeah, so just basically imagine a host body for an unclean spirit, one that's actually capable of inhabiting it without it breaking down and being destroyed. So this is where you would have, and this is where it gets a little tricky. It's like that's why I'm trying not to take too long, but I realize it's a big topic.
No,
right?
you're
This
good.
is why it confuses
you have
a lot
no
of people.
time limit. Yeah, no time limit, bro. You're good.
But the concept of the golem, which is in Hermetic philosophy and Kabbalistic philosophy, and it's in the occult as a concept of something that is a host body that can work with an unclean spirit. And so this is what is assumed because of the descriptions of what the enchantments and the root cutting and all the magic that was being shown to mankind by the rebellious angels. As it says, it was showing them secrets of heaven that men were striving to learn, but it also was corrupting mankind. And the unclean spirit Nephilim, who were created as a result of their taking wives and having offspring with them, that started the beginnings of idolatry, because then those children were set up as idols for mankind to worship. This is all taking place before the flood. This is all described in great detail in First Enoch and Jubilees.
Right.
So they lost their bodies because the judgment that went forth from Enoch by God through Enoch against the Watchers and against the Nephilim before the flood, I should say, the Nephilim were going to all destroy themselves in a type of civil war, and then that they were going to be dead. They were no longer going to be these powerful, ruling, long-living entities that were actually unclean spirits. But they were going to lose their bodies and then become what's called disembodied spirits, and it uses that term for them in First Enoch.
Yeah, I'm familiar.
Okay, so that's before the flood. None of that is mentioned after the flood. All the angels who took wives and created those Nephilim spirits before the flood are put in Tartarus, never getting out until the day of judgment. The angel who did not take a wife and create an unclean spirit, Azazel, he's given a different judgment in First Enoch 9. And he doesn't get locked away in Tartarus.
What do you think it meant by Ham seeing Noah's nakedness?
He literally just saw Noah's butt cheeks. As if you look at Jubilees chapter 7, it gives you the corresponding information to Genesis 9.
Okay.
And basically what he's doing is he's disobeying the fifth commandment to honor your mother and father, because he should have done what Shem and Japheth done, right? Which is to not look upon his nakedness, allow your father to retain his honor, cover him up.
Right?
But instead, he went outside and mocked it. Told his brothers outside the tent, mocked his father, and didn't take the moment to go honor his father and cover him up.
Did this have anything to do with him getting access to like the root cuttings and stuff? Or no?
No, and that's why I was saying if you do the comparison in Jubilee 7, where it talks about Ham seeing Noah naked, Canaan is already born. He's already like 2 years old. If you do the math and you line everything up. So even when Noah realized what was done to him, and he doesn't curse Ham, he actually curses Canaan, which seems weird, right? But
Yeah.
you're like, why would he do that? Well, he's saying Canaan's going to be cursed because your father's not abiding by the laws of God. He's not abiding in righteousness. He's even treating me with disrespect, right? And we're talking like, you just got off the boat. There's only a few of you guys alive. If you can't have some respect for your dad, who just literally saved the human race and followed God's leading, you got problems, bro. So Ham is showing already right off the boat that he's not going to fall in the ways of the Father, ways of Yahweh, which is what Jubilees chapter 7 says, that Noah noticed that his sons and grandsons were not abiding in the ways of God and started to teach them the commands of God, all of the ones of which he knew. One of which was to honor your father and mother and to love your neighbor as yourself. So in Jubilees chapter 7, verse 20. So that's why you see quickly, when you get to Jubilees 9 and 10, you quickly see that Canaan is the one who comes before the descendants of Noah and says, I don't like the land that I was given, which was like the Atlantic portion of South Africa, the eastern, what would be the western shore, or the Atlantic coastline of South Africa. He says, I don't like the land that I was given. I want Uncle Shem's land. So that's why in the Bible, you see the land of Canaan, which God says, I've given this land to Abraham and his descendants, who are descendants of Shem from Genesis 10. That's why it's called the land of Canaan and not the land of Shem, because Canaan, the son of Ham, the son of a father who wasn't teaching him the law of God and the commandments of God, he went and he stole through sedition the land of Shem, or a portion of the land of Shem, which we then refer to forevermore as the land of Canaan in Scripture. There's a whole back history to this. I'm trying to give you like some of the highlights and some of the.
No, you're good.
But there's a whole back history. Like we're at such a. I do a whole class, by the way, for a lot of my patrons on how we formed our Bibles, and the modern 66 book Bible that's sent through missionaries through most of the world is a highly edited version compared to the rest of Christian communities throughout the world, throughout history. So the average, like if I were back in the 1st century AD, before Bibles were even put together, and it's just a bunch of collections of scrolls, I would have access to go read the first book of First Enoch, which Jude is quoting in the New Testament. I would have access to go read the Testament of Levi, which talks about all this stuff as well. Which was found in the Dead Sea Scrolls, which was put in an Armenian canon in the 15th century, excuse me. I would have access to a whole bunch of other Second Esdras, the Apocalypse of Baruch, a whole bunch of these other books that go into great detail about, fills in a lot of the pieces of this storyline, which is why serpent seed concepts are even a modern propagated thought. Because if you just add Jubilees, that's why when I added Jubilees into my debate with Zen, in my opinion, it completely dismantles this whole premise.
It
Because
is like peculiar though how it talks about the enmity between the seeds and then like they're so weird about Jesus's lineage.
yeah, the enmity between, like Jesus explains in John chapter 8, right? If you are claim to be of the seed of Abraham, you'll do the deeds of Abraham. But
Mhm.
instead, the people he was talking to, they're of their father, the devil, because they
Like
do
you'll
the
know
deeds.
them by their fruit, right?
Yes, it's not talking about actual biology. Just in the same way that you're grafted into Israel through faith and belief in Christ, not because you're a literal bloodborne descendant of one of the 12 tribes, but because you are grafted in through faith and belief and through your obedience to God's ways.
Yeah, like you can
That's
be
why you
grafted
share
in.
in the
You can be
promise of the
grafted into the
resurrection.
olive branch.
Right. And in the same way, you can be grafted into Satan's family because you're doing his behavior.
Yeah,
So
well,
this is what,
I'm getting my PhD in biology right now, and I believe that DNA can change with actions.
yeah, there's definitely epigenetics that goes into like the markers of good and bad behaviors that you can have within you. But I'm just talking about as far as the language in the Bible, when you see in Galatians chapter 4, when he's talking about the prophecies and the fulfillments of the covenant that Abraham had received from God about, and to you and your seed, you have all these covenants, these promises of the covenant to live in this land forever.
Mhm.
It's not literally saying the literal descendants of Abraham are guaranteed automatically to receive the promised land after the resurrection, because it still requires them to be obedient to
Yeah, the
God.
Jews rejected Jesus.
Some of them, Jesus
Yes,
himself was a Jew, and many of the disciples were Jews. So, but yeah, I hear what you're saying. Like the leadership definitely rejected him. But
Bible said
so
that the Jews, so he comes for the Gentiles. So
yeah,
you're right,
yeah,
it doesn't matter about the actions.
yeah. So your actions is what grafts you into either the devil's family or to the Creator's family.
Mhm.
It's not about literally being born in a certain lineage, because
Have you
technically we all came from Noah.
I think I have a new point that you haven't heard before. So I was doing some research on the debate y'all were having, and it was like basically Cain, who was of the devil, and then the Greek word. I was like, okay, what does "of" mean? Does that mean like he's associated with or what? And then I looked up that Greek word, and then that other times that word "of" the devil, like "of" was used, the ek in Greek, it was like talking about lineages, and I was like, maybe you should know that point for the future.
Yeah. Again, Genesis 4:1, Adam and Eve came together. They had Cain.
Hmm.
Says they received a man from the Lord, not
No,
from
I
an
feel
angel.
you. It
See what I'm
is it
saying?
is a very
So
interesting topic. Like yeah,
even
I
if
just
you don't include Jubilees and all the other circumstantial literature from ancient Israelites history, if you just want to go with Genesis, I still don't think serpent seed has legs.
mhm.
All pun intended, actually.
Right. Well, some sort of interaction between angels and humans like was viable. At least you're not one of those people who are like, oh yeah, angels could have never, because the
No,
Genesis
that's
account
what I was
clearly.
trying to explain to you. Yes, absolutely. Angels can procreate. Jubilees 15:27 tells you that angels, upon the day of their creation, were all men and they're all created circumcised.
That's interesting. That was a really good point you made.
So yes, 100% rebellious angels can come take wives, and there's enough genetic similarity. Again, this is what I was trying to explain. This is what Paul's trying to explain in 1 Corinthians 15. This is what we have in the example of the resurrected Christ. He's not a ghost. He's not Casper. Spiritual
Mhm.
beings have physical corporeal bodies.
Right.
They're
That's
just
true.
they have higher capability than our dirt bodies.
You writing
So
this down,
this
Andrew, for trivia? I hope so.
Have you read the Dead Sea
this is why
Scrolls?
in Genesis 18 the three angels can show up and eat with Abraham and
Yeah.
actually have an entire meal with him and Sarah.
No, I agree with that.
Like they're not eating food that's not just falling to the ground. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Same thing with the resurrected Christ in John chapter 20. He appears to the disciples in a locked room, and he's asked them if they have anything to eat. They give him some fish. He eats it right in front of them.
exactly.
While he's like, I am real. I am resurrected. Thomas touched my side. See the holes in my
Right.
hands? It's really
Kill
me.
it.
And watch me eat this fish in front of you. It's not just going to fall to the ground. This
Mhm.
is why the kingdom of heaven above is a tangible, corporeal existence. All the descriptions of heaven, a real place with mountains and trees and water
Kingdoms. Yeah.
and
Kingdom.
fruit and animals and land and all kinds of air and clouds. There's a ton of descriptions of the layers of heaven above being a real, corporeal, tangible place. The city of God, the New Jerusalem, which is described as a country, a heavenly country in Hebrews 11, comes down out of heaven, and the descriptions of that is the same creation that we experience here today, except it's
Mhm.
just not tainted.
Right. Have you read the Dead Sea Scrolls by chance?
Yeah, yeah.
Did you see the part where this was really interesting, like where it's describing the Watchers and what they looked like?
Well, there's a lot of fragments found in the Dead Sea Scrolls. Which book are you referring to?
The Abrams vision. That was super cool.
I guess I don't remember the exact part you're referencing.
Abrams vision, basically it talks about like the Watchers had like the likeness of a serpent or an adder. Like the likeness of a viper or an adder. That was the two descriptions they gave of the Watchers. It was super cool in Abrams vision. Yeah. I think it's 4Q. 4Q2, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. It talks about them looking like a serpent. Like it's crazy. And the
Yeah.
reason why I've actually looked into this is because I've like tested, been a testimony to a lot of people who believe in aliens, and I'm telling them like aliens are demonic. Like here is references of these events happening in the Bible. This is nothing new. Like these
Yeah.
interactions they're having, like it's crazy. Like so, I've been telling them like this is demonic. Like when you have an alien abduction, quote unquote, you can call on Jesus, and the abduction ends immediately. This is documented by the CE4 research group and Joe Jordan. Also, if you're, they've actually had documents where people are conjuring these beings, these quote aliens, using demonic rituals like the Amalacha working ritual. So if you can conjure them using demonic rituals and you can stop the abduction by calling on Jesus, I mean, what else shows you that it's demonic? It's crazy.
I mean, yeah. There's a reason why Deuteronomy 18 tells you not to engage in necromancy. I mean,
Yeah.
he wouldn't be telling you to do something that was impossible.
Mm-hmm.
He wouldn't be telling you to refrain from doing something that was impossible. So
Exactly.
yeah, I understand. I guess let's think about it like this. What if, all right, so let's put on our atheist cap for a minute, right? And let's create a hyperbolic argument as if we're an atheist who doesn't believe in biblical stuff or
Mhm.
in angels or demons or anything like that. And I'm
Okay.
trying to mock the Bible, and I step up and I say to a Christian, okay, so you're claiming that there's an entire other race of beings that have been created called angels that are super powerful beings that could kill mankind at any moment. We're talking 185,000 humans are killed in one night by one angel,
Mhm.
right? The armies of Sennacherib.
Right.
And if they can exemplify power like that, what's stopping the rebellious angels from just wiping out mankind immediately?
The good watchers.
I would suggest they literally tried during the days of Enoch.
Mhm.
When they came down the days of Jared, but they're under their own constraints because God's law is not just an arbitrary standard that he gave to Israel to practice. It's literally how he created all of creation abides within his law. This is what First Enoch chapter 5, verses 1 through 4 mentions, that even the laws of the luminaries, the laws of the heavens, the laws of nature, the laws of
Mhm.
rivers and the flow of water, it all abides by the commandments of God, yet mankind is the only peculiar thing that transgresses God's commandments for how we should live,
Mhm.
right? So you have these rebellious angels that they actually, a small portion of them, just 200, come down, and according to Jubilees, they were sent here to help mankind. But while they were here, they saw women, they got enticed by them, and they started corrupting not just mankind, but the animals as well as the land of the earth. This is what, like in Genesis 6, 11 through 13, it talks about not just mankind was corrupted and evil, but the earth itself was being corrupted. So
Right.
from my calculations, from the days of Jared up until the flood, you have about 1,600 years where they came down. They can't just wipe out mankind because, like you said, the good angels, God wouldn't allow them to just come with a full-on assault and just start killing mankind willy-nilly, right? They don't have that kind of authority. But if they can trick mankind into transgressing, mankind has free will, and God does allow that.
Mhm.
This is why we have
Yep.
prophets, to remind people to do what's right and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So the angels do come down and do a full-on assault on mankind to get us to extinguish ourselves. And a part of their attack was, we'll create our own entities that are hybrid unclean beings that were never intended to exist, who will oppress and rule over mankind, that will get mankind to worship them. And that's where the beginnings of idolatry began, to which a lot of magic is involved in this, which are called enchantments, incantations in the book of First Enoch. And they even taught them astrology as well, like in chapter 8. I think his name is Cocobiel. He taught them different astrologies and how to observe the signs of the luminaries in order to draw people away from worshiping the Creator, which is synonymous with Deuteronomy 4 verse 19 about looking up to the hosts of heaven and worshiping false gods as a result of it, which we see happening with the heliocentric philosophy, by the way.
Mhm.
Exactly.
It's absolutely a philosophy that's tied into getting people to stop acknowledging the Creator and not worship the God of heaven, because they don't think he exists, they don't know where he is anymore, and they think they're created by accident randomly with no purpose. So
Mhm.
it's just a new repackaged lie that we see back
Well,
from the days of old idolatry.
exactly. I just want to
Like-
make one last point. The only reason why I've been like sharing about this and talking about it, like the corrupted lineage, is because one of the main pushbacks that I've had, like talking about the Bible, is that people will say, "Oh, God's such an evil God for like wiping out all these people," and I'm telling them, I'm like, dude, these were not normal people. Like these were like this was corrupt. This was corruption of His creation. Like He didn't just do it. He didn't just flood the earth because He felt like it. Like
Yeah.
and He didn't just wipe out these people groups just because. Like there was something going on here with the DNA.
Yes, before the flood, I agree with you 100%. The Nephilim, that are a result of the offspring of the Watchers taking wives, taking human women, they were not normal. They were not intended. They were already considered damned by the Creator, that they're not going to persist as they were and as they had been oppressing mankind before the flood. And that's why they're considered the shades now, going forward after the flood, as you see them described in Deuteronomy and other places. They're called the Shadim in the Hebrew, the shades, dark spirits. So they're not on the earth in the same capacity like they used to be, but the giants that are also referred to as Nephilim post flood are just big men who have a lifespan and die.
Is there a
So
reason that you like want to think that they're different in nature? Is there like is it
I-
like I'm just trying to understand.
yeah, because that's what I was trying to explain, the backstory. The Nephilim that were created before the flood were created under specific rebellious angels taking wives and creating genetic offspring through women.
Hmm. You just don't think that is going to
Those
happen again after the flood?
those angels were locked away in Tartarus. They're not getting out.
Okay.
Both Enoch and Second Peter, those angels that sin, Second Peter 2:4, the ones that are locked away in Tartarus, they're not getting out to the day of judgment. Jude also talks about this. They're reserved in chains of darkness until the day of judgment.
Didn't it say like in Revelations, like release the three angels that were bound on the Euphrates?
But those angels are not in Tartarus. Tartarus is a specific location below Sheol. It's at the deepest place of the creation model.
Okay.
So First Enoch describes this physical location, and it's below the compartment called Sheol, which also is
Mhm.
introduced in First Enoch, which is validated in Luke 16 by Christ.
Mhm.
It's this concept of this is because remember, angels are spiritual beings. They have eternal bodies. So the only thing that destroys an eternal body is the lake of fire, which is also
Okay.
introduced, by the way, in First Enoch. I think it's chapter 67.
Mhm.
That talks about this lake that transforms the angels who are reserved for punishment will be thrown in this lake, and they'll be transformed in front of the eyes of the righteous. Basically means they'll
Yeah.
be destroyed, right? So, so there's all the if we're talking about a literal description of the heavens and the earth and the two subcompartments below the earth, Sheol and Tartarus. Tartarus is the deepest point below Sheol. This
Okay.
is why when the judgment's announced in First Enoch, Michael, the archangel Michael, is shaking with fear because it's such a horrific judgment upon these fellow angels.
That's true.
They're basically being taken out of the story until the end of the story.
So what about like can other angels rebel? You know?
But there's no prophecy or testimony of any place after the flood where any additional angels rebelled
What about
afterward.
what about the Satan that comes and deceives the kings and performs lying signs and wonders?
Like I said, he's called Azazel in the Hebrew literature, both in Enoch and Jubilees. He's even called the dragon, the serpent of old in Revelation 20, the one who deceives the nations. He is the
Okay.
Azazel goat that the Day of Atonement represents, where they send the Azazel goat into the wilderness,
Mhm.
upon whom all the sins are placed on that goat. That's actually explained in 1 Enoch chapter 9 as well, as it refers to Satan as being the one whom the sins will be put on, because ascribe all sin to Azazel. So
Okay.
in Hebrew literature, Azazel was a part of the 200 that rebelled, but he got a different judgment. He didn't get put in Tartarus. He's still out, and he won't get locked away until Revelation 20 at the second coming of Christ.
He's the only one that's gonna be out?
He's the only rebellious angel still out.
Okay. And you don't
Yeah.
think so he's gonna be the only fallen angel that's still able to roam?
According to scripture, he is the only angel that's still out. In Matthew 4 and
Yes.
Luke 4, when Satan came before Christ to tempt him, it was just Satan, not an entourage of 200 other angels. It's just Satan.
Okay.
In the same way, in Job chapter 1 and 2, when Satan goes before God in heaven to try to tempt Job, it's just Satan.
Mhm.
There's no other
Okay.
mention of all these other. So, this is why I think the back history of Israelite literature is so important for us to include, because we have kind of an edited version that we just have to start filling in the gaps and doing guesswork without this extra literature.
Yeah.
So, therefore, you have in Revelation 20, when the angel comes up with a great chain to wrap up Satan, the dragon, and lock him in the ground for 1,000 years. How many other angels are locked away with Satan during that time?
That was like 300.
In Revelation 20,
Oh, in Revelation 20. Oh,
yeah, at the second coming of
jeez.
Christ, when the angel takes a great chain and wraps it around Satan and throws him in a hole in the ground for 1,000 years, that's the only angel that's put in a hole in the ground at that point.
Okay.
There's no other angels that are wrapped up and taken and put in with him, because the other rebellious angels have already been in the ground. Technically, they're already in Tartarus and have been ever since the days before the flood. And
Okay.
and as it says, they're only going to get out to stand judgment and be thrown in the lake of fire. So this is why the devil, after the 1,000 years, is brought out. He's allowed a short season to go to see people again, but then he's apprehended again and thrown in the lake of fire.
Okay.
Right? So I imagine the lake of fire as being like the trash compactor of creation. So
Okay.
even spiritual bodies can be destroyed in the lake of fire. So like in Matthew 10:28, when Christ says that don't fear men who can just kill the body but can't kill the soul, but fear God who can kill both body and soul in Gehenna. Usually most English
Absolutely.
translations will call it hell right there, but it's kind of like a poor English translation. The Greek word is the word Gehenna, which is the word for the lake of fire.
Okay.
So body and soul are destroyed in the lake of fire. If your body and soul are destroyed, there's no other part of you to exist.
Right.
Right? So spiritual beings have a spiritual body, and they have a soul that is the mind, will, and emotions and experiences that is collectively recorded inside that body. So even the lake of fire can destroy both mortal flesh as well as spiritual bodies, which is why humans are thrown in there as well as angels are thrown in there.
Okay.
So after the millennial reign, at the Great White Throne Judgment, which is the second great judgment of all things, everything that's been rebellious against the Creator is taken out of the game. I don't believe in the Catholic version of eternal conscious torment. That's not scriptural. It says the smoke and the flames from the lake of fire rise forever, yes, but the people that are thrown in there are destroyed. That word destroyed is a specific word. You're done. Body and soul are done. There's nothing else. It doesn't say you have eternal life in perpetual death. It says you're destroyed. You're taken out of the game. There's nothing left of you to exist consciously. You're all parts of you that had any form of animation corporally are destroyed. So that's why the lake of fire is such a big deal, and that's also why First Enoch describes it as being in the valley next to the throne of the king, which would be Yeshua, because it's not. You're not just going to be able to in the millennial reign, you're not just going to be able to like play around the lake of fire and accidentally fall into it. Like this is this is a an incredibly dangerous place for all beings, and it's next to the throne of Christ, who rules from within the New Jerusalem, and you don't just have easy access to it. So it's kind of a unique concept. There's a lot of pieces here we're covering really quickly, but I appreciate you hearing me out.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's okay if you disagree with me. Just don't believe anything I said. Just take the references I gave you and look them up on your own time.
Can you tell me one more reference? Did you say it was Jubilees chapter 13 with Ham doing the root cutting stuff?
Well, Ham is in chapter 7 when he sees Noah's nakedness, but in chapter 8 verses 1 through 4, there's a guy named Kenan, however you want to say it, and that is a guy that if you can find him in Genesis, but you have to look in the Septuagint. He's in the genealogy, the table of nations in Genesis chapter 10, but you have to look in the Septuagint. So this goes into a whole nother historical conversation about Christianity between the Masoretic Hebrew text versus the ancient Greek Septuagint texts.
Okay.
And how there's quite a few differences. It doesn't change the story. It just adds more detail.
All right. And with that, Kingdom has 4 points in trivia. Taylor has no, I'm just kidding.
1 second, Sean. Could I have a question for you. We have as Taylor and Lily mentioned it, we have a Czech podcast, Czech and Slovakia. We actually care about biblical cosmology and where we live. So also flat Earth and also biblical cosmology. And if could be possible, would you go to our stream to talk us about your path to God and biblical cosmology? If that could be possible, we had already on our podcast, for example, Taylor was there, Alan is presenting, Dr. Michael Heffron was there. So it could be really nice because so far I am listening to you and like 99% of what you are saying. So it would be
Sure,
really
brother.
nice.
Yeah, sure, brother. Just send me a message or something and we can schedule it.
Thank you very much. I will definitely write you.
Dom is literally like the Czech Witsit, if not better.
Okay, that's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, what would you say, Dom? Pretty much the biggest platform in Czech for cosmology discussions?
I don't want to brag about it, but I guess so. There's nobody bigger than us. We go from depend on the time, but from 100 people live on YouTube to 900, 950, and regularly
awesome.
about 300 people just about biblical cosmology, which is really good, I would say, because the Czech and Slovaks are
super based.
Yeah, sorry, yeah. Also, thank you, but really small country. It's only 17 million of us together, so it's the numbers are really good if we count that we are small countries. Together we are only 17 million people.
Well, that's awesome though, because it's I love meeting people from all across the earth that also believe the word of the Creator and are trying to figure this out and are fascinated by His creation. It's an awesome unifying topic, for different peoples from different cultures. I love it.
I agree. Thank you very much, and I will definitely write you here on the Discord.
Yeah, do you usually chill around this time? I know it's kind of late now, but
yeah. Well, usually I'm working until 3 a.m. my time. So, I'm either doing research because I'm creating a contextual study guide of Scripture, or I'm developing more material for the classes that I do for my members and patrons, or I'm just making new videos or something like that. So, usually I work late into the night because it's real quiet and I can actually work. During the day when my wife and my child are running around doing stuff, it's it can be distracting, but this gives me a quiet time to work uninterrupted usually. So
nice.
I've always kind of been a night owl. I get more creative at night, and I've always stayed up late. So
yep. Sam and Dom are across the world, so we try to stay up a little late to kind of talk with them. It's
hey, have you seen those star videos, by the way? Kingdom in Context?
Oh, yeah. Have you seen those?
I don't know which ones you're talking about.
Yeah, I go to an observatory with a 20
inch Ritchie-Chean telescope. Who it's like over $50,000. It's like a legitimate observatory, and normally when people do star videos, they they don't usually publish the raw videos, right? They'll do like time lapse exposure pictures, so it's really hard to get these raw star videos from like a genuine observatory telescope. But yeah, I have multiple videos of them on my Twitter, and they're super cool.
Okay.
They're super cool. They look like they're underwater. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And they're
okay.
genuine star videos.
I've seen other videos about the stars, and they look like they're underwater for sure. In
Yeah.
fact, several years ago, I was studying the Hebrew language, and I was studying Paleo Hebrew, which is just an older script of Hebrew. And I saw some of those star trail videos, and it made me think of, I think, what would happen if I like slowed them down as they're flickering in all the different ways that it flickers. And I put it on like 10% speed, and it looks like it's making ancient Paleo Hebrew pictographs.
Wow.
I-
And I
Maybe.
I
So-
tagged you in main chat. I have 3 of them I saved from Taylor. If you want to just kind of take a gander.
yeah,
You just
for
play them on
sure.
the screen.
Well, these are definitely not as focused as some of the videos I've seen previously, but
No, those are
These-
actually focused. That's the crazy part.
Yeah, I show myself focus. Like I show like focusing in different levels to show
Yeah.
that they're focused.
Yeah.
okay.
And this is at an observatory with an astronomer focusing them.
She's using her phone to video through the lens.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
But yeah, she'll literally be like, "Yo, could you focus up?" Like, okay, so this is out of focus and this is in focus. And when they go in focus, it looks more like something underwater.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
What do you
I know
think the
Taylor,
stars are?
Taylor's so excited right now. I love it.
Yeah, they're, to my understanding, they're definitely they're luminaries, clearly. Sonoluminescence would be my best guess.
Nice, star in a
Yeah.
jar, baby.
And they're
Nice.
governed by, I mean, look, in case you guys haven't noticed already, I've done a lot of research on ancient biblical manuscripts and texts, and I disagree.
Really, you
with-
seem like a newbie.
Right. Yeah. So I actually would disagree with Jewish communities in the past and around the 1st century AD under the authority of a specific rabbi called Rabbi Akiva, whom he was the guy that's responsible for removing the Testament of 12 Patriarchs and Jubilees and Enoch from the Jewish canon.
Interesting.
And because he had a disagreement, not just because he was mad that people were using those books to make converts to Christ, but they teach a 364-day calendar and based off sun cycles. And Rabbi Akiva observed a lunar style calendar, which was what he carried over from Babylonian teachings.
Like, to be like, we're fine with this one.
So that's why Jubilees and Enoch got the boot from the Jewish canon, and then Christian communities after that, while they had a ragtag collection of scriptures they hadn't canonized yet, the majority of Christian communities did not maintain. They just basically took the Jewish community's word for what was the Old Testament canon, and so they also left out books like Enoch and Jubilees, except for a couple of outliers.
They
Like-
canned it.
You're hot miking Rick Skis.
They canceled deliveries because of
I got it.
So the Ethiopian Christians, as well as in the 4th century, they included books like Enoch and Jubilees in their canon. And then in the 14th century, the Armenian king made a canon for his people, and he included the Testament of 12 Patriarchs again. Because there's a ton of prophecies about Christ and his priesthood and how he's the savior of the world, and also about biblical cosmology is in there, and Testament of Levi and the other patriarchs. It's an amazing, amazing stuff. And and it also affirms Enoch and Jubilees and what it teaches, and specifically in the Testament of Levi and Testament of Judah, and I think also in the Testament of Dan. Those 3 testaments specifically mention the book of Enoch and how they got their information from Enoch. And so it makes sense that if you're going to throw out Enoch, you're going to throw out other books that affirm it and validate it as well, because you disagree with the calendar that Enoch used. And this was an actual old 1st century argument between the Zadok priests in ancient Israel versus the Sadducees in their day. And so this goes deep into like the infiltration of what we see. Like the people that crucified Christ, they're not the legitimate priesthood. They were infiltrated, basically plants by the Roman authorities. So this is why it was such a big deal. This is why like the actual lineage in Luke 3 and Matthew 1, it's mentioning John the Baptist because he should have been the rightful priest. He was of the actual proper lineage from the Old Testament. But instead, he's persecuted, and now he's just a prophet out in the wilderness calling people to repentance. But he should have actually been serving at the temple as one of the priests, if not the high priest, because his parents were in Luke chapter 1. So this is just like some deep cut stuff into ancient Israelite history and infiltration from the enemy into Israel to get them to stop following God's ways, break the covenant, and therefore result in their scattering, which is what actually happened. But along the way, they also were persecuting the prophets because they were breaking the covenant, not following his ways, and inserting their own traditions from Judaism, or what they called oral Torah back in the day. And so this is why Christ is always reprimanding the Pharisees. He's reprimanding the chief priests, the scribes, because they're not legitimate leaders of Israel, right? And there's just a lot of tension there. And after Christ died, this guy rose to power named Rabbi Akiva, and he's the one that was responsible for with a coordinated coordinated effort to try to reduce the amount of literature that they just called it sacred writings back then. They didn't call it canonized scripture. They just called it sacred writings. So he's actually recorded in the Mishnah talking about the sacred writings of Enoch and how he doesn't want people to read them. He does in Jubilees. He doesn't say that they're not scripture. He just says, we don't want people reading these. So they had a totally different conversation back then about what they thought was inspired scripture. And so this guy's admitting these books are inspired by God. We just don't want people reading them, so we're going to take them out of our collection.
In the Mishnah, he says that? That's wild.
Yeah, it's recorded in the Mishnah that he's talking about some of this stuff. And so this is why, from the first century going forward, the Old Testament Jewish canon is just a certain collection of books. And then Christians kind of just adopted that, right? Most of them, not all of them. This is why I love studying the history of the church, because you have other Christians who did keep those books. And I promise you, we would have not nearly as many denominations in the U.S., in the Christian church in the U.S., if we had had the fullness of scriptures that they used to have in the first century. Because all these answers are given to you. All these little missing plot holes and these little pieces of information that we're talking about tonight, it's all given to you in these books. It explains and makes perfect sense of stuff that Christ says and that Jude's saying and that Peter's talking about, that Revelation's alluding to. All these things that it's like perfectly puts the rest of the context into this story. But since we don't have them, we're just running around arguing with each other and guessing. So this is some of the stuff that we focus on my channel, is try to inform people about the fuller context of Scripture. Because all of it is about the gospel of the kingdom, which is what Christ talked about in Luke chapter 4, verse 43 and 44. He says, I must go to the other towns of Samaria to preach the gospel of the kingdom of God, for this is why I was sent.
Mm-hmm.
So the message of the kingdom come, the actual Zion that comes down out of heaven, is the point of peace on the earth. That is what all the prophets talked about. Even Enoch himself, he talks about the second temple that comes down that's bigger than the first original temple, that is the one that will be here forever. I think it's in chapter 90 of First Enoch. He talks about all nations, loving God and following the law of God at the end of days. And it's like First Enoch chapter 105, verses 1 and 2. It talks about the Father and the Son descending to the earth to dwell with mankind.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like the same story from start to finish. And the book of Enoch has a ton of prophecies about Jesus Christ. And it's just amazing how so many people reject it outright and they call it Gnostic. And I'm like, I don't even think these people know what the definition of Gnostic is. And what it really just reveals is...
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. It's okay.
I just was, because you seem to know a lot about the Bible, so I was just going to ask you, like, what do you say to people who ask if Mary is in the lineage of David?
Well, It seems that she would be, right, because she's not in the lineage of David, but seems like she was in the lineage of or at least she's married into the family as a cousin of Elizabeth, right, who was a Levite. So, are you talking
That's
about
what
the
I said.
argument?
Yeah, I was just making sure because that's what I thought, but I just want to get your thoughts on that. So she's the cousin of Elizabeth, a Levite, who the Levites were in the lineage of David.
No, the Levites were from the Levites. David's from the tribe of Judah, which was where Joseph came from.
Yeah.
So then Joseph's the father from the tribe of Judah. Mary would be from a lineage of Levi, as is deductively assumed here.
Okay.
So therefore, and this actually is crazy because this actually fulfills a prophecy in the Testament of Levi,
Mm-hmm.
which it says, I think it's in chapter 11 of the Testament of Levi. Here, let me see if I can find it real quick. I'll read it to you real quick. Let me see here. It says, because I've written a contextual study guide on the Testament of Levi also, in addition to other books. See if I can find it real quick. Okay. It says that the Savior will come from both Judah and Levi in the Testament of Levi.
Oh, really?
Yeah, let me find it. I'll read it to you real quick. All right. So it says, chapter 8, third shall be called by a new name because the king shall arise in Judah and shall establish a new priesthood to all nations. That's not it. But that affirms other things, but that's not it. One second here.
In the meantime, could I read something to you, like what I found from Dead Sea Scrolls?
Yeah. Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Okay, and then hold on, let me see. I want to make sure I get it's the Q 4Q544, and it basically says this was the vision of Abram, and it says in my vision a dream vision, and behold, and this is kind of fragmented, so bear with me. And behold, two of them argued about me and said, and they were engaged in a great quarrel concerning me. And I asked them, you, what are you? Thus about me, they answered, and we have been made masters to rule over all the sons of men. And they said to me, which of us do you choose? Like, who are you talking about? And then it says, I raised my eyes and saw one of them, and his looks were frightening like those of a viper. And his garments were multicolored, and he was extremely dark. And afterwards I looked, and behold, by his appearance, his face was like that of an adder, and he was covered with together over his eyes, and then it's kind of fragmented. And then let me keep reading. Hold on, let me go back. Dun, dun, dun. And then, okay, I'm gonna have to get the next one. Oh, here we go. Over his eyes, and then this is fragment 2. This watcher, who is he? He said to me, and I guess he's talking to God at this point. He said to me, this watcher and his 3 names are Belial, Prince of Darkness, and Melchresha. And I said, my Lord, what? And he said to me, and all his paths are darkness, and all his work is darkness, and he is in darkness, you see. And he rules over darkness, and I rule over light. Yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting passage.
Mm-hmm. Anyway,
That's
like a
interesting. Yeah.
literal reptilian in the Dead Sea Scrolls, like crazy. And you know, when people have these alien abductions, like seriously, somebody in my family member literally like worships aliens, like they think aliens are gonna come save us and they're really into it. I'm telling them, like, dude, these abductions are purely demonic. This is documented from biblical time that these things are coming down and messing with people. Like, it's not from another planet, you know? And I provide evidence for it too. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Now, keep in mind that the Bible describes angels as having the ability to appear in various forms.
right, completely.
Yeah. They can shapeshift, if you will. But is this possibly describing this particular angel's original form? or most dominant form, if you will. I'm not sure, but I just
I have no clue.
I was sad. It's unfortunate that texts like that are so fragmented and lost to history.
Yeah, I know. Anyway,
Let me see.
yeah, I'm
I
really
think I'm
interested in
about to
your
find
channel
this.
if you do a lot of apologetic work. Anyway, sorry to cut you off.
No, you're okay. I'm just trying to find this passage real quick. I think I almost have it. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, Stacles, you had a question earlier. Did you get to ask it about the Cain and Abel?
No, it was actually answered when you guys were talking about the different types. It was about the flood, Nephilim, pre-flood, and after. It was actually answered very thoroughly. So no, yeah, you're good.
Okay, so here I was wrong. It's actually in the Testament of Judah, and it says, if you guys aren't aware, the Testament of 12 Patriarchs is each of the 12 sons of Jacob. It's like them writing their last monologue before they die to their children, and so the Testament of Judah says in chapter. Hang on a second. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, guys. This little screen just refreshed completely.
How dare you pause your train of thought to look up something?
No, the screen like refreshed, and I lost the place.
You're at Testament of Judah.
Yeah, 1 second here. I'm just trying to find the actual quote where it talks about how he's going to come both from Judah and Levi together, which would help us a lot, right? With the question about Matthew 1 and Luke 3.
Right.
Right? And what if there was actually a prophecy from Israelite literature that already addressed this?
Exactly.
The Lord shall raise
Yeah,
up
if
a
you
new
can share that
priest.
with me, I'm compiling like a lot of apologetics like evidence. Like I have like 20 pages of evidence like for apologetic, like in things that people might not be familiar with. I'll just add it to my list. That'd be really cool.
Yeah. Where did it go?
Dude, you're like a biblical encyclopedia.
Okay, here it is. Okay, sorry. That's why I thought it was Judah. The screen flashed on me. It's actually the Testament of Simeon. Here it is, chapter 7. It says, "And now my children, obey Levi and Judah, and be not lifted up against these two tribes, for from them shall arise unto you the salvation of God. For the Lord shall raise up from Levi as it were a high priest, and from Judah as it were a king. And he shall save all the Gentiles and the race of Israel. Therefore I give you these commands, that you may command your children to them and observe them throughout their generations."
Wow.
Testament of
That's
Simeon,
dope.
chapter 7. Yes, it's and of course all these patriarchs here, the sons of Jacob. I mean, they're in the timeline. They would be writing this stuff while they were in Goshen. So after they'd already left and went down to Egypt, and now they're in Goshen before the persecution starts from the new Pharaoh that takes over. While they were still existing in a time of peace, this would have been the timeline in which they wrote all these things. And they over and over again say they got most of their information and most of their understanding of prophecy from First Enoch. Now, for anyone that's not aware, the first Enoch that we have today is a compilation of 6 different scrolls that are partial manuscripts. Some of it included in which is called the Book of Noah. And so we don't have the original writings of Enoch. We have what's left to us throughout history. So that's just in case you're not aware. Yeah. That's why if you go through the first Enoch, and we don't give any weight to second or third Enoch because of what it's like highly, they don't have the manuscript history chain of custody, and what it teaches in there is actually Gnostic, especially third Enoch. It's talking about Metatron and how Enoch ascended to heaven, was turned into Metatron, and now is going to be like a type of savior. It's completely different from like first Enoch is the only historically and scholastically legitimized considering Riot of Enoch, but even within First Enoch, it's not the fullness of the writings of Enoch that may have been available to ancient Israel. So what's interesting is that Jubilees claims that the writings of Noah and Enoch that Abraham possessed them. This is in Jubilees chapter 21. And these are the books that were then passed down to Jacob and then down to Levi, and were in the possession of the Levites at the base of Mount Sinai in Exodus chapter 19 and 20. So according to Jubilees, the writings of Enoch were in the camp at the base of Mount Sinai. Like, that's crazy.
Wow.
That's crazy to me. But there's been definitely a concerted effort to, ignore First Enoch. And I apologize that we're mentioning it so much. I'm not obsessed with it. Anything that First Enoch teaches, I can show you from the canon of 66, the same concepts being taught. But it's interesting to me that First Enoch opens up in chapter 1, verse 1 and 2, and it says, "These are the words of the blessing of Enoch, wherewith he blessed the elect and righteous, who will be living in a day of tribulation when all the wicked and godless are to be removed." So right out the gate, he's talking about a future time period of the day of the Lord in a day of great tribulation when Christ returns and removes all the godless from the earth. Like, that's a massive event that's never happened before.
Yeah, I don't want the people to read that. Let me just remove
Right.
that.
And guess what? And it tells you, oh, here's the origin of Satan. Here's the origin of unclean spirits. Here's the origin of idolatry itself. Here's where it came from. Like, it tells you all this stuff that would be some pretty useful context for Christians to know and understand, Because like,
Yep.
if you go to a modern church and like in modern church, they're reading out of the Gospels and the pastor's talking about Christ kicking demons out of people. And if you raised your hand and you said, "Pastor, where do those demons come from?" What's he going to say to you?
What can he say
Do
to
you
you
believe
about
in
that?
deliverance ministry? Go ahead. Lisa.
No, you're
Yeah,
good.
I think people can. I think that we still have the authority to remove demons from people, for sure.
Right.
I don't believe that everyone's walking around with a demon at all times. Unfortunately, that's what some deliverance ministries teach these days.
Mm-hmm.
But I definitely believe that people can have demonic oppression and possession. It's like various levels of demonic activity in their life.
You should see some anti-flat earthers.
Right. In fact, if you want to watch a fun video I did, go to Demons of Babylon, and I actually go over some exorcisms, and that's a part of my 42 series. And I go over different various forms of witchcraft that are still practiced to this day that you see in Scripture, and that specifically when it comes to unclean spirits and how they can interact with people, and how the Catholic Church is basically putting on a show when they do exorcisms. And I go over the reasons why I say that, because they're not doing. I basically show you from ancient Babylonian cylinder seals and hieroglyphs that the exorcist was called the Apishu, I believe, Ashapu, the Ashapu. He was actually a medicine man from ancient Babylon who wore a Dagon hat, the fish hat that the Pope wears.
Oh, no way.
Yeah,
The Padre?
yeah, and he carried the little, looked like a little
The
purse.
staff thing? Oh, that one. Okay.
Yeah, so that was an ancient exorcist from ancient Babylon and ancient Assyria. And they had specific rituals they did to remove the dark spirit and bring in a different spirit that was considered the good spirit to keep away the dark, destructive spirit that they kicked out of you. So ancient exorcisms were literally just trading one unclean spirit for a different one to give the impression to people that they had power over the spiritual realm and could heal people and help people with spiritual maladies, but they're still possessed. This is why it was such a big deal when Christ came along and he's actually kicking spirits out of people.
He was the only person to do it.
Yeah,
That's another thing that made him unique.
Yeah, because he actually was doing a full cleansing. He wasn't doing a swap. And
Have
so
you heard of
I go over all that in that video.
Can I, real quick, can I ask about your, okay, so should I watch Investigating Babylon series first, then the 42 series?
Yeah.
Okay, for sure.
Yeah, I think you should. I mean, it would probably help you because when you watch the first episode of, or the first two episodes of the 42 series, I'm drawing upon stuff from the Investigating Babylon series. So,
have you heard of Tom Horn, Dr. Tom Horn?
Yeah, I know who he is.
He was talking about like speaking of demons, like how the Native Americans have these stories too of these like reptilian overlords and these like giants that roam the earth and stuff. Like, what do you think about like these historical accounts and stuff like this?
I don't doubt it. Yeah, I don't doubt that there's chimeras throughout history. A
Do
variety
you
of
think they knew
chimeras.
how to do DNA manipulation though?
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
was just trying to explain it to you. It's literally introduced to us in First Enoch. And so when you
Wow.
actually research the how growth hormones work, it's like I said, even the U.S. military is interested in gibberellins and has done extensive research on the effect of gibberellins on not just plants and trees and other things, but also in other experimentation that's considered top secret and private. And because
Nothing new
they
under
want
the
to
sun.
create super soldiers.
Yeah. Have you seen that Indian? I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but there's this Indian guy who goes to like these ancient Indian structures, and there's like these carvings. Some of it shows like a sperm going into an egg, and these are like thousands of years old. And it's like,
Yeah.
how do they know about that without a microscope? And it's like they also show like artificial insemination. They show like uh,
There's
you've seen that,
we
right? I can't remember his name.
Ecclesiastes chapter 1 verse 9 is not just speaking lies. There's nothing new under the sun,
Nothing
guys.
new under the sun. Yeah,
But how
no,
would they
exactly.
do that? How would they
Everything's
do
been
like
done.
CRISPR?
You have fallen angels. Like these are extremely intelligent beings who were created on day one. They watched the rest of creation be made, according to Job chapter 38. They shouted with joy as the foundations of the earth were laid.
Yeah.
These are incredibly intelligent, privileged to more information than we'll ever be in this mortal life. These angels already have access to all that. They were created as a part of the system in which we were created to serve us. So this is why I was mentioning earlier. I apologize. I got off the rabbit trail of explaining the back history of First Enoch. But in First Enoch, it tells that there's, like when we asked about the stars, there's an entire squadron of angels dedicated to make sure that the luminaries continue to flow properly as they're designed in the book of First Enoch. They give their names. It's like they have a hierarchy. They have chiefs and leaders within that squadron who make sure the other angels below them make sure the sun keeps moving through the 6 gates throughout the year so that nothing goes wrong. Like the creation model was like a huge machine that was made, and they're
Watching it.
workers, in different parts of to make sure the machine flows smoothly. This is their job, and then others are sent to mankind to help us for different things and reasons. Others are a priesthood. Like these are the archangels. They're a priesthood to God. This is the priesthood that Christ was placed in greater authority over once he ascended to heaven, as Hebrews explains. So, like there's practical roles and functions for God's angels. They're not just little wispy spirits floating around in a cloud world. This isn't Super Mario Brothers Chapter 3, where you're jumping amongst clouds and getting coins.
What a great game.
Yeah, right. But this is like a legit existence. And these angels have legit jobs. And some of them are assigned over the luminaries. So there's actually this unique spot. I think it's in First Enoch 42. I think I'm going blank on the exact location, but it talks about at the end of the heaven, there's this large type of mechanism that's called a world engine. And I'm not talking about, Man of Steel, Zack Snyder's Man of Steel from 2012. But this could be where he got the terminology, because it describes something like a massive machine that's called a world engine.
AKA the vortex at the North Pole.
No, it's at the remote parts of heaven. So
the North, right? I mean, that's
no, that would be like the center. So like if we're looking at a circumference and encompassing firmament structure, which is how the firmaments are described, as to encompass the earth. Enoch is given a tour of the different layers of the heaven, the firmament, and all the earth and everything involved, and even Sheol and Tartarus, as well as the remote ends of the heaven. And that's where he sees these world engines that do something.
Interesting.
It doesn't say what they do, right? But at the same time, First Enoch describes the firmament itself to have 12 portals, 3 on each each north, west, east, and south, that are doors basically that open up and allow winds inside of the enclosure that we live in. And so,
Oh, like the four winds.
yeah. So, is this what the world engines are doing? Are they creating the winds that then get channeled and float in? And it describes those 12 portals and how you know uh, specific portals are used for different types of wind patterns and weather patterns that come across the earth, whether it's warm seasons or cold hoarfrost and hail and snow, or mild temperatures or springtime
So
seasons.
wait. There's 12.
There's 12 circumventing the firmament that encloses us in groups of 3.
So that
the north.
corresponds. Yeah, that corresponds to like people saying that there's 12 dimensions and that gravity's like bleeding in. I feel like they just took it from that.
Well, what's interesting is that I was researching Antarctica, and I can't find it anymore because I think YouTube scrubbed it, but I do have evidence of it in episode 4 of our first season of Uncommon Ground, where I show clips from this Russian documentary that I found about the Voskol station. I think it's called Voskol.
Oh, Bosco. Yeah.
Yeah, whatever the Russian Antarctic substation is down there. So it's a documentary interviewing the guys down there, and one of the leaders of that station down there said that all wind and weather patterns come from Antarctica, and all the weather services they get all their information and data from the Antarctic regions because that's where the weather starts to begin with.
I think I know what documentary you're talking about, and I think I might have that.
If you can find that again, I'd love to have it again because I just have clips of it that I created for that show, but and I didn't save the full thing, and then I can't find it in my YouTube history anymore. So
here, I got that, and I also have this. I'm gonna send it to you in your
and
DMs.
they also talk about in that documentary about how the magnetic declination is all jacked up down there, and then they also talk about they release weather balloons all the time, specifically to gauge the weather. It's like a regular practice that they're doing at that station is determining the weather for the rest of the world. Like they're the first people to get the indication of it, and then they send that information out to the other continents.
That makes a lot of sense. Like I've actually made a correlation with the terahertz frequency. You ever heard of terahertz?
No.
So this is crazy. So essentially what they call the interstellar deep space observatories in Antarctica, they all use terahertz frequency band to basically talk about observing, in quote unquote, observing the interstellar medium, which to me that's just like ether right there.
Yeah.
And there's a correlation with that and the Internet of Bio-Nano Things, which uses terahertz sensing technology as well to understand the mechanisms of the body. I'll send you all that. It's really wild. But I just sent you the Antarctica PDF. That is the most detailed Antarctica map that I've been able to find, thanks to one of our friends here, Eric, who's a librarian. He has access to certain documents. Check that map out. It's pretty wild.
What do you guys think Antarctica is?
I truly
ask you. Is it azimuthal equidistant, or are we talking a bipolar or duopolar?
I think Antarctica is literally the edge, and also an interdimensional portal for demons and stuff.
Where the winds come from, right? Yeah.
I mean, I think that's where the entrance would be for these.
I'm just guessing all of you guys have seen. Have you guys all seen the like that 1950s show with Admiral Byrd being interviewed about Antarctica?
Yep. And how there's a land the size of America on the other side of the South Pole. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So I have 2 questions about that statement. Is the South Pole that he's referring to the same one that they claim today in the center of that landmass, or is it earlier South Poles that was closer toward the shoreline?
Well, you're talking about there's 3 of them actually. There's 3 South Poles.
Yeah, exactly. But like in the 1950s, what were they calling the South Pole in the 1950s, right? But this is where all these other theories come in about, the Iron Republic and that kind of stuff and whole other worlds and land masses. I don't know if I buy into all that, but what if he was just referring to the actual land that the globe calls Antarctica? What if he was just referring to like, oh, there's beyond the South Pole, there's like, a huge land the size of the United States. And what if it's actually just another landmass below South America, but it doesn't wrap around the bottom of a globe and it doesn't wrap around the flat Earth? It's just another continent of land.
Yeah,
It's
I can totally buy into that. The bipolar model.
Yeah. Well,
Dude.
And
Well,
Admiral Albert is a Freemason. I would just like to add up. Just people are usually missing this information. I think it's a vital information.
Check this out, Kingdom. Sean, real quick, pop open that map real quick. The one I just sent to you. It's huge.
In DMs or in the main chat?
In DMs. Yeah.
Okay.
Pop that open.
Okay.
Look in the top right corner and look at that projection. It's called the Hammer Transverse Elliptical Equal Area Projection.
1 second. I gotta.
It's pretty big. It zooms in. It's a very big file.
In response to Dave,
but I can't. It's gone. 1 second here.
Might be your downloads. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm checking my downloads, but it's not showing up. Okay, here it goes.
Yeah, I was just sort of thinking, just broadly speaking, like, how did he know the continent was the size of America or something when he came across it? Because let's assume he doesn't have the tech to get up high and do all the mapping and stuff. Perhaps it's just through interaction with the civilization down there. Like, once you come across a civilization, they'll tell you the claims of what the size of the land is and etc. So it's kind of an easy out, but essentially it's all it would take essentially to go, okay, what size of it. Yeah.
But yeah,
I don't know. Like, I'm not opposed to the notion of something like, what was it? The fella Tomb of Illumination sort of refers to it. He's actually, like, in the southern hemisphere, dimensionally speaking, we're at, like, that's where I'm hanging out. We are actually sort of bigger dimensionally. As you transverse into the northern hemisphere, you become condensed. This is what this guy's talking about. So, I mean, it does open up a whole can of worms as far as like sizes and proportions are concerned, and that's problematic, and I don't like that aspect of it. But it's not out of the realms of kind of conceivability for me that, like, the ether, the frequency within which we live exists within, like, it may actually cause like dimensional change proportional, and as long as everything remains in proportion as you go out or in or wherever it is, like, it doesn't matter. Like, the biology maintains a homeostasis. All of your metals still behave the same. So there is possibility for that in my mind.
I just wanted to show Sean that map That is the most detailed Antarctica map I was able to find.
Okay.
You'll have fun exploring that. But if you look in the top right corner and that projection,
Right.
how it
It's like
has,
a big egg.
yeah, and it has
Yeah.
both poles there.
Right.
Now look at the land surrounding, like if you go directly across from South America. So South America, and then imagine going directly across from it. That's the other land that I think he's talking about, and it's just blank there.
I guess I'm struggling to see it on this little egg projection that what you're getting at, but
Yeah, it's right in between Australia and Africa. So the reason why I bring that up is because when you scale that out, the land, like if you look at the map, like it's hard to zoom in and out of this map because it's so big,
yeah.
but it's just white. There's no trails really on that side of Antarctica. There's only one trail, and it's the USSR transverse, which is basically kind of corresponds with what you were saying with the Russian documentary. I've seen that. I know exactly what you're talking about. If you look closely at that map in the top right corner, there's the pole of inaccessibility, and they had a temporary station that was only there for 12 days.
Okay.
It's very strange. They say that's the... Oh, dude, okay. Yeah, you want to get mind blown real quick, bro?
Well,
All right.
just real quick, I'm going to say this before we jump into that. So my thought is, what if? Okay, so I should also include this information real quick. I actually called a travel agency last week, and I asked them about chartering a boat to circumnavigate the coastline of Antarctica and what it would require. And they got back to me, and they said a couple things. They said, first off, it'd be approximately $2 million to charter a ship that would do that. They said, secondly, you're not going to find a captain who will do that. And third, even if you did find a captain to do that, it would take you about 3 months, which is why no captain would want to do that, because it would completely consume their tourist season. And I'm sitting there going, I'm like, why does it take 3 months to go approximately 11,000 kilometers around the land they tell us is Antarctica?
Where all the wind is. There's so much wind down there. Like
Right.
you'd be pummeling through those knots.
So the question I have is the other base, the Russian stations, the Brazil station, the Casey and Australian station, the other stations that are down there on different points around the land that they call Antarctica. How has anyone ever investigated like how long it takes those workers to travel to those stations? Because if they can just already have, like, if it's just a landmass that's below South America, and all these other nations have already sent their employees to an established station there, well, then they can say, yeah, they all just go towards the middle and meet at the South Pole and murder a station, and suddenly, boom, you're given the appearance that they've went to the bottom of a ball. But if it's just a landmass and all the Antarctic bases from different countries are on the same landmass, then they're not on the bottom of a ball, and they're not stretched out around an AE map either. It's just a big deception.
So, so I personally, I have so many maps. I love maps, and I love deep diving into maps. I found this myself. You want to check out the stream real quick? So, I know Google Maps is messed up. Any maps that you're going to get online is going to be edited in some way. So what I did was I got into the Las Vegas Metropolitan Department because I'm in Las Vegas. I got into their open data portal. So I know they're not really messing with it because this is for like calls for service or whatever. But it gives you all of the base maps. So I switch it to blueprint mode and it gives you a bunch more data. So then I take this. When you go into blueprint mode, you see so much more shit.
Interesting.
And then what I'm going to show you is this line that you will not see unless you're in blueprint mode. And this is at McMurdo Station right here. And it starts right there. And it goes. It's called the South Pole Traverse, right? So first, let me just show you real quick. This is really cool. So I'm just going to show you Google Maps real quick. Hold up. That's another thing I found a while ago. But I just want to show you what Google Maps does, and you tell me how weird this is once I get there. Hold on, let me go to McMurdo. McMurdo Station. All right. So here's McMurdo Station. Check this out, dude.
Huh.
Do you see this?
Someone's child just put together a collage.
Like where to go, right? So this is where the South Pole Traverse is, and then they just totally mess with it. Yeah.
They hide it.
So you can follow this all the way down. You have to zoom in a certain amount. I'm about to get an arm workout right now.
Okay. Is there any way to zoom out a little bit while you do this?
It disappears.
Oh, okay. But I see how far you've gone at this point. And it's still even labeled as a road. It didn't. That's interesting.
Exactly. So zoom in, zoom in. This might take a while.
Yeah.
Dude, it goes all the way.
Yeah, because,
It's like
you know, if it does wrap around an AE map, how thick is this land?
Dude, look,
From-
I'm gonna zoom out.
Yeah.
It keeps going. It goes all the way, and then check this out. I actually know where it goes now because I've done this many times. But it goes all the way down through here, through this mountain chain, all the way to like right here, I believe. Somewhere around here. I'll find it again. It's here somewhere. But it goes all the way down through here. I don't want to take too much time to... Oh, there it goes. Got it. Okay. Goes all the way through. Now, on this Mercator projection, it should go back out. But it doesn't. It just goes all the way through. And then, like, yeah, see, you can't see any of that stuff. But there's so much to this. There's another spot. I found the Chinese one. Let me see if I can get it. It's like right here, I believe, if I remember correctly. It's hang tight. No, it's this one. Yeah, it goes right here. There it is. And this is the Chinese one. It's the same kind of pathway.
Huh.
And this goes all the way throughout. So different countries have different routes, dude, that just go out of bounds, as I call it.
Right.
Like straight up.
Outer Punters, yeah. Hey,
Dude, goes
so do you guys,
all the way down.
did y'all
Sorry.
ever see that supposed military footage of the warm spot, the warm lake and the green trees in Antarctica?
No.
Oh man, if I could
Yeah.
find that video again.
Dude, this
I
goes
don't-
all the way down, dude.
I don't know if it was Rob Skiba or someone else back in like 2016, 2017 that was showcasing it, but like it's filmed from like a helicopter. But they claim they're in Antarctica and it's military footage and that they're flying over a spot that suddenly there's a pond, there's green trees, there's snow all around it, but it's like a little square mile pocket of a warm zone where there's vegetation growing and there's warm water, and they have facilities set up there, military facilities set up. And
Oh, I bet.
since that, I've never seen that footage ever again.
Yeah, I have seen the one you just described. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I wasn't crazy. I wasn't making that up then, huh?
No.
So I
And
just
the
wonder.
other thing is the stuff that you tell us from Enoch in its sort of like bare skeletal story, like the thread of it and the multiple threads of it is identical to Vedic stories and cosmologies. And I mean, it's astounding. It's just in the details and the language. Like the less important things, of course, sound different.
Yeah.
But if you just look at like the main threads, it's identical. It's amazing. Like every
Well, I
time.
mean,
Yeah.
everybody got off the boat, right? We're all descendants from Noah, according to the Bible.
Yep. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
just because they started speaking different languages at the Tower of Babel doesn't mean that they forgot what they were taught growing up.
Yeah. 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 It's amazing to hear
In
you.
fact, you guys
Oh.
might like in my Investigating Babylon series, I go over a bunch of ancient Vedic writings and talk about all the Vimanas of ancient history and how I even found documentation from how the Vimanas were being talked about by people in the days of the Romans as a into the Middle East area, right? Not just in India. But yeah, I think you guys will really enjoy that series overall because that's what I think that the alien deception that we're seeing today, they're just ancient Vimanas. That is the same technology from the ancient world that the government already has knowledge of. Because
Yeah.
I even found a entire transcribed Vedic text. It's in the Aeronautical Museum and of Archaeology in India, and is the professor that is the curator of that museum is transcribing this ancient text um, about how the operators of the Vimanas were taught the different ways to pilot the Vimanas and how they had cloaking abilities and how it was a great privilege for them to be taught how to fly a Vimana and how they operated on mercury engines or what was called quicksilver. And then I was like, well, that's fascinating because NASA clearly has a fascination with India in various ways. So I did more research and I found out that NASA it's in the Smithsonian now, but at one point in the 70s, NASA created an engine that runs off of mercury.
I think I've heard something about that. Yeah.
And they also, in the 1980s, they had a guy come in, one of their researchers, and he started an entire department. This is in the 1980s. He started an entire department within NASA to develop an AI language for based off of Sanskrit because he said it was the perfect language for programming versions of AI, and basically a computer language could be built off of it.
Oh, you know what that reminds me of? Have you ever seen Ancient Kufik?
I guess not.
Dude, I'm gonna show you
But
this.
if you look at the capsules on the space shuttles and all the capsules that they claim went into space and then landed in the ocean, it looks like the ancient Vimanas from ancient India. It's a fascinating thing to me. And of course, string theory is literally just ancient Hinduism about how Shiva created and destroyed different worlds.
Yep.
Like it's all repackaged ancient religion from the cultures that expanded out after the days of the Tower of Babel. Hey, what's up, brother? Cool. Huh. Yeah, you said you sent it to me. Oh, you haven't sent it yet. Okay.
I just sent.
Yeah, I saw the videos you sent about from No Fanfare, but what you're referring to right now, you haven't sent that yet. Okay. Okay, cool.
So I just sent you something. You tell me what that looks like to you.
You mean the computer chip?
or a QR code.
No, actually, I was being tongue in cheek. Yeah.
Tell me it
Yes.
doesn't look just like a QR code.
Yes, it does. Yes.
Yeah, that's ancient Kufic.
I really think you guys are going to enjoy the series because I go into ancient automatons, ancient AI, early forms of computers, and it's like there's nothing new under the sun, guys.
There's nothing new under the sun. Exactly.
Literally, ancient India claims that they had what they call them yantra. I can't remember how it was. Well, yantra, I think, is the word for spirit. But they had what they called spirit moving machines, and so they had
yantra actually is like a gadget or like a
okay.
like a 3D. It can be 3D, but it also can involve numbers. It can also be
Okay.
2Ds. So
So then
basically, it's just like something close to a gadget, or not even a gadget. I mean, it can mean gadgets also, but it's a contrivance. It's a
right. I
yeah.
apologize. So then I'm forgetting the word for spirit and I'm remembering the word for the gadget. So basically, they called these something something yantra, which was basically what they were referring to these automatons, which would be a contrived gadget, right? It's something that is a pre-programmed machine of sorts. But they said they were animated by spirits, which is a fascinating claim, and that some of these machines were literally guardians for the relics of Buddha's organs in some of the temples, some of the Buddhist temples. This is like 2,500 years ago, and that they were guardians, like they could move so much so that they could defend the holy site that they were guarding. There's also stories from the Greeks about Zeus having automatons within his palace. There's other stories of automatons all throughout different cultures. And I'm not talking about Leonardo da Vinci creating a little lion with his chest opening, just a couple of spring movements. We're talking like advanced stuff, advanced automatons. In fact, this is the ancient story of Telos, which was an advanced automaton that Zeus made to guard one of the islands that he controlled. And in my opinion, this is where the modern lore and all the movies. You guys ever wonder why they continually make movies about robots?
It's not predictive programming, I swear.
Right? It's the ancient story of Telos, who's an original robot who was an automaton who was made by I think is Mephistius or something like that, one of the chief art engineers, mechanical engineers for Zeus. And he could fly, and he could walk like a man, and he could protect a specific area. And he was powered by the elixir of the gods, is what they would call it. It sounds honestly just sounds like oil to me, but basically the way it's described. But it's interesting that I'm sorry, go ahead. No, I'm done. I think this is where we get the modern lore. Yeah, tell us more. Exactly, right. I think this is where we get the modern lore of the Terminator concept, right? The robot that is
Makes sense.
created by something. And I mean, like all the modern movies, Jason and the Argonauts, they literally depicted Telos in that. The Day the Earth Stood Still, it's a big robot that comes to do the bidding of his maker.
Yep.
Just go down the list. And it's just like with the zombies. It's a trope in movies that seems to never go away. It's always continually rehashed in some way, to where whether it's a synthetic cyborg or an actual metallic automaton that's sentient in some way or advanced AI, it's the same theme constantly put in our face over and over and over and over and over again. And I think we're going to see that again. I think that it is in the book of Revelation, chapter 13, it talks about the second beast creates an image of the first beast. And that image goes around the earth, forcing people to worship it or they get killed. And I think you guys will really enjoy the Investigating Babylon series, because I think there's nothing new.
I can't wait.
And it's all just going to be rehashed and with modern trappings. But a lot of this stuff is ancient deceptions that just get repackaged and brought back out to new generations.
Yeah, and there's ton. No, go ahead. You are Anon?
No, I haven't heard that one. That's fascinating. You know why I know that fable is not real? Because the Jesus of the Bible just walked on those waters, bro. I'm just joking. I'm just joking. I'm just joking. Yeah, I'm just joshing with you, man. Yeah. Yeah, interesting, man. Interesting stuff. Yeah. So from what I was researching with the ancient Vimanas of ancient India, they claimed to run off quicksilver, but it didn't exactly say how. But that it was just basically a center point within the vehicle that they put the quicksilver into the engine essentially for combustion. But it didn't tell you like fuel efficiency or if there was any other chemicals involved, or it's very it's limited as far as what's left from these ancient Vedic writings and what's being transcribed. But it did say that these things had the ability to make themselves look black as they're flying, or to gather the wind that goes around them and then make itself look white and bright because it's a specific way it reflects the wind at high speeds around them. And that's literally like some of these UAP videos that we're seeing, and that's being released to the public right now. Like there's that naval UAP video where it's like a black thing that they're following, and they can't actually make it out with the camera because it's all blacked out. And I'm like, I read about that in the ancient Vedic writings. Like that's crazy. Yeah, things like that.
And
Oh, interesting.
real quick, just want to say thank you for stopping by, Sean. I'm fading. I'm gonna get some Z's.
Yeah, for sure. I'm
if you
gonna
have,
jump off here soon too. Do you guys have real quick before I go? Has anyone besides Sam? Has anyone seen my channel?
Yeah, me, 100.
Okay. Do you guys have y'all seen us talking about our animated series we're trying to produce, The Days of Noah? All right, let me try to share this real quick. So what all pieces of all this information we've been talking about tonight, about a year and a half ago, I approached some guys I knew that are really awesome artists, and I was like, "Hey, you guys want to help me build a new animated series that actually portrays this information without watering it down, about the days of Noah leading up to the flood?" And they were down. So we've been working on the first couple episodes, and we're almost done with episode 2, and we're going to release both
Nice.
together when we're done. And you guys want to see a couple images from that?
oh,
Yeah,
dude,
sure.
all right, I'll stay up.
Yeah, no worries. That's okay.
No, I don't mind.
In fact, here, one second. Let me see if I can
Maybe
pull
I'm
this up.
even glad.
Yeah, it's
It
been
was like a really good conversation. Yeah, I like it. I like
banger of
that
a conversation.
on this Discord, like so many people from like different expertise come along and they can share like their knowledge, because like we are at the end we are just quote unquote just humans, and we have like limited time. Like everybody has like this same time a day, and we cannot focus on everything and go deep down like on every single topic. So I'm glad that we can like hear your knowledge, because it's similar knowledge to, for example, Alan. Because if you like start listening Alan, I know that you definitely heard like many things from him, and like this is the type of the people that should like present and share the knowledge, because I love the passion that I can feel, and that's person can feel it's a genuine truth searching. That and this is what I think we are all here in. We are searching the truth.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, bro. I
Yeah,
appreciate that.
you fit right in, bro. Yeah, you're good. Welcome aboard.
Thank you. Can you guys see me trying to share this screen? Is it showing up?
Yeah. We see the YouTube, but we
black
see
right now?
the video. Yeah, but we
Okay,
see
so-
the YouTube everything.
All you gotta
Let-
do
Let me
is
know if it doesn't share the audio. I got it turned all the way up. This is actually a little trailer we put together, and that we actually have an original composer from Spain, and he's creating an original soundtrack for the series. And then this is
nice.
a lot of the initial animation and artwork. So just a little teaser, real quick.
It's supposed to be black screen right now. Oh, yep. Okay.
It's dope.
Nice.
I like it.
Yeah, it's a massive project, and we're just we had some people help us with some funding for these first initial episodes. We'll probably be able to get 5 episodes out of what's been donated to us so far, but this is like such a massive project. I never imagined like
Animation's hard, bro.
yeah, it's huge. Like when you see these animations on Netflix and stuff like that, they're like 20-30 million dollars go into those animations. Like we're doing this on a shoestring budget, but the guys are committed to it. They're not getting paid what they're worth, but because they see the ministry value of this, right? Like no one has ever told this, to our knowledge, no one has ever told this story with the details that we've been talking about tonight that actually bring it to life in a tangible, real way. Like actual rebellious, super-powered angels interacting with mankind for 1,600 years. What does that look like? How how in the world does Noah have the faith and courage to stand against those forces, right? But it's amazing. It's an amazing story. And what does it look like with giants running around that are also unclean spirits who know how to do various forms of magic and incantations taught to them by their rebellious watcher fathers? All types of chimeras. Like what does that world actually look like? And mixing in with it the actual truth of Scripture. Like Noah was a righteous person who served the Creator. They all knew they were under a firmament. So, like in episode 4, we're going to go to one of the cities that's actually next to the firmament, where some of the rebellious angels are like testing the firmament because they're trying to get out. Because that's one of the things in First Enoch that is described. Like when Enoch pronounces judgment against those rebellious angels, it's told to them, you can't come back to heaven anymore. Like you're here. You're on earth now. So if we take the Bible seriously with what it describes as the creation, where else are you going to go? So imagine the rage that builds over 1,600 years, knowing that you're stuck in this enclosure and you know how much more to this creation model is out there that you're now limited to. Now you're stuck here and you can't leave because you're just awaiting for your pending judgment to happen. That's already been pronounced by the Most High. And so I've got like the angels trying to do experiments on the firmament to see if they can draw power out of it and try to break out. Like all kinds of fun things I get to go into this storyline just in season 1. By the time we get to season 4, God willing, if I get funded that far, it's going to get really crazy because then you're going to have all various types of Nephilim running around and all kinds of warfare and all kinds of stuff. So the goal is to create the series would be 8 seasons long. The first 6 seasons is a 400-year time span leading up to the flood. And then the last 2 seasons is from the flood to the Tower of Babel. And so basically encompassing most of the lifespan of Noah himself. And so, just I guess if any of you guys pray that we end up getting this fully funded over time. And once I get the first 2 episodes finished, I'm going to start touring them around to different places and different people, entering into some like film festivals and things like that. See if I can't get some eyes on it.
Have you tried Netflix?
Not yet. I'm definitely not ready to show. But here's the thing, man. Netflix, how I don't have any negotiating power to retain creative control over the series, and that's the big thing.
Right.
Is I can't let someone else start writing this because they haven't studied what I've studied, and if they have, they're a part of the occult. Like Netflix isn't making pro-Christian content just up until recently when they struck a deal with the Chosen crew.
Yep. Well, that's why I mentioned it. Just because they might be turning a leaf because of the political things right now. And
but think about the Chosen. The Chosen's got ridiculous capital. Like the Chosen doesn't need Netflix. They've got such a strong fan base to download their own private app and watch the Chosen on their own private app. They didn't need Netflix. I imagine Netflix came to them with a hefty sum of money as a part of the contract because Chosen doesn't need them. They wanted the Chosen on their platform to be viewed because it's doing so well. So nobody knows about this yet, right? Like this is still in the beginning stages. So maybe after the first season, we'll have something to negotiate with. So that's some sort of a huge fan base or whatnot.
Doesn't the actor Mel Gibson have some kind of production company? You could maybe.
I do. I love the way you think. I already had that thought. Did anybody see Mel Gibson's interview with Joe Rogan recently?
Yeah.
No.
He talks about trying to make a video about the second coming, trying to make a movie about the second coming. And yeah, I would love to solicit Mel Gibson to produce this. Absolutely. Or to be
He does
the
have a
funding
production
studio.
company.
Right. I would, I would love for him to be the producer studio because I feel like he would allow me to retain creative control. And I believe he's Catholic. So he would not have any major aversion to many of the themes that are mentioned in this concept. But
he's Catholic.
I think he's Catholic. Yeah.
Well,
think
I
he is.
don't. I don't think they like the Pope, but I think that they're Catholic, but they're not into like. Because I think he was influenced by his father or something.
Right.
I remember
He's not like Catholic to the point of like going to the mass in the Vatican and believing in papal infallibility, but I think he was raised Catholic.
Yeah.
But anyway,
he made that one movie about Christ, and I think it was a huge commercial success. So.
Oh yeah, he made almost $1 billion.
Wow.
He made almost $1 billion off that movie. Yeah.
Wow.
So this is our YouTube channel. We also have a Rumble channel, but the YouTube channel has grown the most for this, just with putting out these teasers and interviews about the show.
Oh, Founded Earth Brothers. Wait a second.
I love Founded Earth Brothers, and we actually we will have them on our podcast as well.
Those are the guys that I was telling you about that had the Antarctica trip or whatever. That was the name.
Okay. I'm friends with Josh. He's we've done a couple shows together.
Oh, so yeah, I'm pretty sure it was his footage or whatever of him on that flight and seeing the sun change from like yellow to white. I would talk to him about it. I'm pretty sure that was them. Yeah.
I don't think he's been to Antarctica. But yeah, I'll talk to him about it too. I'll ask him if he still
maybe
has
it's
that footage.
not. Maybe it wasn't him, but it was definitely his video. Oh, but sorry, here, go ahead. Yeah.
So you guys remember earlier we were talking about the Vimanas? So that's what I'm representing here. These are called grand vessels. And you see the sphere with the electricity popping off of it at the top?
Yeah.
Yeah. This is the
This is so amazing, Sean. So nice to see this taking shape already.
Yeah. And so these
if you don't mind posting your YouTube handle or name or whatever.
Yeah, it's a Kingdom in Context. It's just like my name at the bottom of my screen. Kingdom in Context. That's our channel on YouTube.
I'll send it to you, Lily.
Okay, yeah, because I can't see the.
I got you.
I can't see his whole name.
And then this, I don't know if you guys can. Does it transfer? Right. Right. Yeah, those big vehicles. But these fly, and these are. This is one of the animation variations that we're not going to keep, but this is in our Slack thread where we have our creative stuff back and forth, but just showing different types of things. And this is in episode 2 where he's been thrown into a labyrinth as a part of his judgment outside one of the capital cities of Apsu. And there's a bunch of chimeras roaming the labyrinth that he has to try to escape or die. And so this is just one of the dissidents who's rebelling against the authority structure of the fallen angels and their Nephilim power enforcers, and he's just been caught. This is also going to be in episode 2 as well. Just there's a lot of fun stuff in here. We are using a mixture of both already. So yes, to answer your question, yes. There is let me see if I can find one of the animations we did with AI. that will show you. I think it was this one here. So this is an AI animation. Doesn't look that great, so we had to clean it up a little bit. And he got it looking better over time. But just little stuff like that, little transitional scenes. Yeah, it's not super smooth just yet, but it's coming along, and he's working with it. This is going to be one of the. So we got these other concepts called cannon tillers, which is basically what you saw in the teaser. It's like a floating tank, but what it does is it has a bucket behind it. Let's see if I can show you one of the. It's on the bridge at Apsu. I don't think I have a animation to show you right here in this particular thread, but basically imagine a large tank that built big enough for giants, and it shoots nitrogen lasers, and it doesn't shoot artillery rounds. It shoots nitrogen lasers, but it gets the nitrogen from the soil. So imagine a backhoe bucket on the back of it that's just dragging as it's floating across the ground. It's just dragging on the topsoil and eating, so to speak, topsoil and stripping the nitrogen out of the soil to create the laser blasts, so that it basically has like perpetual ammunition of laser blasts. And the lasers, they're not a cutting laser, but it's a heat blast that when they're on the battlefield being used, when they shoot the enemy, the laser basically warms their copper armor to the point where they have to take it off or suffer severe burning. So then it basically just causes, because remember, like, they're walking this fine line of like, do we just take our higher power knowledge and kill everybody in 2 seconds, or do we create scenarios to which they make themselves vulnerable and get themselves killed? And so I'm implementing those themes into the storyline for a sake of plausibility. Otherwise, you're just going to have the good angels sent to take these guys out. So they're constantly skirting, as long as they can, certain universal principles that they must abide by so they can maintain what they're doing. And since they are angels who have superior knowledge of creation and of God's law, then they know exactly how to do that. So they can maintain as long as possible before the prophesied judgment actually takes place. So this is what you're seeing, this to basically answer that type of apologetic question of like, okay, if angels can just come in and kill everybody in 2 seconds, then why don't they? They're already bad angels anyway. They already hate mankind anyway. Well, because they would get taken out in 2 seconds before they even finish the job. Because the good angels are always around. There's a bajillion more good angels than the 200 that rebelled. This is the part that I guess a lot of churches don't talk about. Is like the amount of angels that rebelled is so small compared to the rest of the ones that remain faithful to God, to the rest of the myriads upon myriads of angels in heaven that actually love mankind.
This is a really good point. I actually like hearing this for the first time.
Yeah. And that's because even if you're in a church that actually admits that angels could rebel and came down in the days of Jared to corrupt mankind, they claim, because it's a Christian tradition from around the 4th century, they claim a third of God's angels in heaven rebelled. And that's gone off of, an interpretive, out of context take from Revelation 12. But it never says that in Scripture. It only says that 200 angels rebelled. So there's like a ton of more good angels that are fighting for you, right? But anyway, so we got a lot of stuff we're putting in here. What does it look like when you're on the Grand Vessel and you're watching, like when these rebellious angels go sit down and take a moment to rest after whatever they're doing? What does that look like? What kind of conversations are they having? We get to address all this fun stuff in this series. And yes, that's right. You saw Paleo Hebrew flashing on the screen there. So there's just, it's a great opportunity for me to actually tell a story that I don't think has ever been actually visualized, to provide a ton of context to biblical concepts. And we're just excited that, we're finally getting a chance to do this. Now, you can actually, if you go to my channel, Kingdom in Context, you can actually watch. Let me see here if I can find it. Can't remember what it's actually called, but I showed a preview of like 16 minutes of episode 1 last year to show people the progress that we were making. And see if I can find it real quick. Yeah, here it is. It's exclusive preview. Oh, I got it set to members only. I'm sorry, but I'll give you a teaser right here.
Nice.
So basically,
Do you see it? Near the tree line. I'll retrieve the bow.
We can't hurt him.
We never hurt anyone.
so can any of you guess who Azazel is?
Angels?
So you're staring at 3 angels right here, right? But can you guess which one is Azazel?
The middle one?
The one that has his arms behind his back.
Yeah, the one in the light purple with his arms behind his back.
I knew it.
Yeah, so the one in the red, he's Samyaza. So the Book of Enoch says that he was the leader over the angels that took wives. The one on the right, his name is Terrell. He's one of the other angels mentioned. And then on the left is Azazel. So there's like 200. The cast for this thing is ridiculous. When I went to the artists, the 2 guys that are doing all the artwork, and I was like, hey, by the way, guys, in the first season, I'm gonna have like 60 characters to introduce. He's like, oh man, you know how much time it's gonna take to create all those characters? I was like, yeah, well, let's get started. Let's start it, because in addition to all the family of Noah, we got other supporting cast. You've got the Nephilim. You've got other giants that are just genetically manipulated, and then you've got a huge swath of angels that get introduced. But the story opens up with these specific 3 angels who kind of like are at the top leadership of all the rebellious angels. But that's where the world that I get to explore, this firmament enclosed flat earth that I get to explore. So by the way, this whole show is a flat earth show. They're going to talk about it. They're going to talk about the firmament that encloses them, trying to escape the firmament, where they can go outside the firmament, where, if they should go, can they dig underneath it? Do they remember? Like, they're going to talk about all these things. Like, there's no way you could watch a show and think that you live on a ball in space, or that the Bible taught a ball in space. Right? There's a lot more, yeah, but in the first
60.
season.
Ooh.
Yeah, I love it. That's actually on our list of things to do. We already have a comic book that came out for the first episode. I don't know if you guys can. I guess I can show it to you later. But yeah, if you go to, we have a comic book that is already available that came out for the first episode. So each episode, we're going to release a comic book that accompanies each episode. And then after each season is over, I'm going to release a novel, which is the full first season or the second season. So there's going to be like 8 novels. Because this is where all this came from. Is I wrote a trilogy called The Days of the Deluge many years ago, back in like 2011. And
oh wow,
I basically have taken that trilogy and reworked it and turned it into this series. And so this has been a long time I've been working on. I've been working on this since like 2007. So wow. Yeah, it's a fun thing. Like so what they're doing right now at the opening of this first episode is they're on a grand vessel high up in the sky looking down over the battlefield, and they see what they're after, and they're after the armor that Jared has. And the armor is a MacGuffin throughout the first season. That basically that they want to get their hands on it because it does unique things.
I can't see him.
Patience, son. Jared always lands on his feet.
So old dude is Mahalalel. You guys remember him in the genealogy of Noah? So the youngest looking one is Noah. He's actually 200 right here. The guy on his left is Methuselah. The guy on his right is Lamech. Right? So you got Noah, Lamech, Methuselah, and then behind him is the father of Enoch, Mahalalel, who's like 900. So
I love the animation, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. So then it's going to transition to, because they're looking for Jared. Jared was down in the land of Nod where this battle's taking place, and they're on the cliffside nearby. They're looking for Jared.
That's really good animation. Amazing.
I commit this day to you, just as all my days. Huh? Huh? Huh?
Jared!
Dinesh!
Samyaza is here! Grab on!
All right. So this is a controversial thing I'm sure people are going to hate me for. But in the storyline, there's good giants and there's bad giants. Because there's a difference between unclean spirit Nephilim versus just manipulated men. So part of the dissidents that are fighting against the controlling powers of the Watchers, they have some giants in their ranks that are just genetically manipulated men who've come to the truth and have defected. And that's
Sounds
one
logical.
of the that's one of the central storylines of one of the main characters. His name is Ravdanan, and he's the son of Terrell, the rebellious angel in the dark purple. And throughout the story, I'm not really giving any spoilers away, but throughout the story, they've told him he's a Nephilim, who is like the unclean spirit Nephilims, but in fact, he's not. He's actually just a genetically manipulated man. And then he learns this, and he starts to, as he encounters Noah, and over the course of time, he and Nazdanon, they defect, and they create the rebellious force that starts their war against an actually organized, sophisticated war against the rebellious angels and their Nephilim offspring, in order to distract them away from where Noah's building the ark. So it's like a complicated, it's like a whole. They got supply lines. They have, at one point, some of the people that are helping in the dissident war against the Watchers, they learn about what Noah's doing, and even though they don't believe his motivations, they still, just as a practical safeguard, they want to build their own ark, right? But they build in a different location, and they get discovered by the Watchers, and it gets destroyed and all this stuff in this battle. So there's a lot of things going on in this storyline, but that's why Jared is being quote unquote rescued in this moment by this giant and running off with them. And so
I see what you're doing, Sean. You're coming here to hook us and give it with this cliffhanger. Get everyone waiting for the next episode. That's
yeah, especially now that my battery's almost dead, I have to leave.
Okay, leave. Bye, Lily.
It's going to be a fun little show. Hopefully, we can, see, you guys can see it be made a full reality in a full season.
Dude, I can
Abba
see
willing.
this taking off for sure. Like, I know you want
Enough
to
of
keep.
it. You will speak to my father with respect.
Yeah, the flat Earth community is gonna love it.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so these little squares that they're in is actually made of a crystalline substance like the firmament. Because the rebellious watchers know how to do that, right? And so this is their little transports that they run around in with their high tech. And that's Terrell in the dark purple there, and then that's Nazdanon or Ravdanon, excuse me, with his big anime sword. As you can probably see from some of the animation, we're adding some of the aspects of popular anime into this for the kids, But hopefully it'll attract a variety of generations. When we premiered it, we had people that were like telling us that their whole family was watching it, like grandparents, parents, and children, both teenagers and young children. They were all watching it together when we premiered it, and they all loved it. So we're just praying that we can in the next year or so we can actually make some serious headway with this and get going.
Yeah, dude. You got a good idea here, bro.
Yeah.
I can see it taking.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea, and I think you should also probably start like a GoFundMe or a Kickstarter or something along that lines in regards to getting more funding, and I'd be happy to help support.
So we're going to be doing that once we release. After we release the first 2 episodes, we have a website, daysofno.com, and we had a fundraiser up there. That's where we raised most of our funds last year. But then Stripe and PayPal kicked us off when they found out what we were doing.
What?
Yep.
That's crazy, man.
So that was a huge blow to us, and so now we just have a Patreon for people that want to support the series. But we did have like an active site with our own, credit card processing and everything where people could donate to the series. But then they kicked us off, both of them. So
Wow.
they claimed that we were crowdfunding, which is against their rules. And so they weren't going to facilitate the transactions anymore. And so I'm just like, crowdfunding, donating to a project, there's a fine line, but either way. So we'll see.
That's so weird. Where
Right?
in the terms and conditions does it say that, though? It's so odd.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what they claimed, man. So yeah, so basically we're excited. We're excited about, the potential here, and we'll see what happens. If you want to see a incredible historical perspective of what possibly the world was like before the days of the flood, what it meant to actually maintain faith in God versus the world absolutely going to hell in a handbasket, to the point where God had to flood the whole world. I mean, that's like serious apostasy,
What is the name of the series again?
Days of Noah.
Interesting.
Days of Noah.
And the music is great. Also, I have to say the soundtrack that you have, you're doing great work with that.
Yeah, in fact, if you go
Italian
to the channel,
composer.
He's from Spain. If you go to the channel Days of Noah, I'm continuing to upload because he just finished some other pieces. So we have a special motif just for Samyaza. Like in certain movies, you'll see a certain character come on screen and then the music changes.
Soundtrack.
Yeah. So we're building certain musical pieces just for certain characters, and we already have Samyaza's motif released, and then we got one for Azazel coming out, and then one for Noah is already ready. I just need to release it.
Just a quick question. I'm kind of a newbie. Like, in your perspective, or like, how do you interpret Azazel? Azazel is like.
So he's the Satan character.
He's a Satan character, right? Okay.
Yeah. And in the Hebrew literature, Azazel is the one that we refer to as Satan. Satan is just a generic moniker that means adversary. But his actual name, according to the Hebrew literature, was Azazel.
And was he the one who tricked Eve and Adam in the garden?
I would say yes. This is where, well, this is where it's debated because First Enoch chapter 69 says it was an angel named Gadriel, and Gadriel, just like in the Book of Jubilees, it specifically says Satan has a different name called Mastema, and Satan has many different names, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that the Gadriel character is being referred to as the same as the Azazel character because of the context of his story that's being told. And also Gad is the word of the false god we see for Satan worship in Isaiah 65, who's called the god of fortune or the god of fate, which the ancient Greeks and the ancient Mesopotamians referred to as Gad, who was basically Satan. He's considered the god of fortune. So I go over that in my 42 series as well, the history of that name and the etymology. And yeah, Satan has many different names throughout time. And
Hey,
there
real
is,
quick,
I'm sorry,
real
go
quick,
ahead.
have a good night, and thank you so much. I hope you stop by often. It's
Night,
great to hear
Lily.
you, but my battery is almost gone. Love you
Yeah,
guys, and have a lovely night.
thank you.
Love you, Lily.
Thanks for humoring me as we look at all this stuff.
Night, Lily.
Yeah, I wouldn't go, but my battery is almost gone.
Yeah, I know that we were talking about like actual scripture and historical concepts, and and I just thought it'd be fun to show you guys. Like, I'm trying to put those into a modern visualization with an actual story, so that I can introduce this stuff to the masses. Because not only is it literally taking place inside of a firmament enclosed flat Earth, but I'm trying to make it as biblically accurate as possible, so that people can know who's deceiving them, and where all these deceptions came from. And this is why, even in Christian movies, no one's ever made anything like this, because the average Christian, they're not familiar with, if they even take Genesis 6 seriously, they're definitely not familiar with Jubilees and Enoch's extra depictions and information about that. And they don't, many times churches today don't even teach that Satan's a real character. So there's a lot of things that I just hope to get people to think about with an actual story, So we're excited.
The idea of like high tech in the past, because there's a concept like we are advanced now. We know more things than ancients were. They didn't have any technology. They were very dumb. But how did they create the amazing things that we know they created, like architecture and stuff like that? And I like how you put all of these high technology stuff. I think shaped the paradigm. Like ancient didn't have any tech.
Yeah, because the Watchers taught their sons, the Nephilim, all this information they knew, and that's how they oppressed mankind and lorded it over humanity. Is not just witchcraft and magic, but also the high tech information. And this is why they were so superior to rule over them and had to be stopped. And so, yeah, as you saw from this little teaser, where'd the change? We are going to be addressing Titans as well. This in season 2. So not just 12, 13 footers, but 60 footers.
The big ones.
The big boys, the Titans. The ones that consumed, as First Enoch 6 says, they consumed all the acquisitions of men and then started eating men. Because you basically just run out of resources. They knew too many calories per day. They can't be sustained, right? So this is why, like in the story of David and Goliath was supposedly, 9 or 10 feet tall, according to the translation of the measurements. But in that height and that power and that strength, it meant nothing to David with a sniper rifle of a slingshot. So there's like a sense of practicality that it's almost as if the rebellious angels and the concepts of the Nephilim, it ran its course, but as technology surpassed it, as innovation surpassed it, it's pointless anymore. You don't need big people anymore if a sniper rifle can take them out from a mile away. Like, they're not going to do any good, right? Unless they have the ability to, have some sort of protective layer that can stop them from modern weaponry. Making a giant doesn't make sense anymore, right? It's just more adjustment in your daily life. It's more food and resources. It doesn't make sense, right? It's just, but if you're trying to create them so that you can oppress mankind and be a terror to mankind, they're very effective in that way. But the moment that mankind steps up in innovation and invention to be able to fight back, suddenly they're pointless now. So now you need to create what we see in Revelation 9. You need to create a super powerful hybrid that can be the golem for an unclean spirit to possess. So this is one of the things that or even just regardless of the size, you want to be able to create a host body for an unclean spirit to actually work within. And this is what I think they're trying to do with modern technology. Is can you create a true technological golem, right? Can you create something that can be animated by an unclean spirit that's not flesh and blood?
Like, is that a homunculus?
Yeah. Well, golem is the same kind of thing. You know what's pretty interesting, Sean? I've shown Sam this. There's this new open source AI on Python. Guess what it's called?
What's that?
Genesis AI.
Yeah, I'm sure
and it's basically to help robots basically train in a 4D environment without actually being deployed yet.
Wow. Yeah.
It's pretty wild. Sorry, I just made that connection. I was like, wow, it's really called Genesis AI. Have you ever seen that?
Well, I haven't seen it yet, but I don't doubt it. Like all the plethora of implications and applications for AI, as far as creating technology that can harm mankind or be used in some sort of sophisticated plot to control mankind. Like it's just.
I want to give so many spoilers, Sean, about the series about AI. Like, come on, now you're teasing me here.
Yeah, I talk about that in the series as well. And that's where it's like truly there's a difference between just truly sentient something versus a deep learning program. Did
you talk about AI in your Babylon series? What, really? How come in the past they have AI?
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. But you got to watch yes. Yeah, that's true. Plausible deniability.
And Sean, just so you know, that here on Discord, there's a lot of people that are very, very knowledgeable in regards to using AI and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure they'd be happy to help out. And even if they would charge a small amount of money, just message me, let me know what they're going to charge, and I'll pay for it. I'll help you out.
Oh, you mean for the Days of Noah series?
Yeah.
Huh, interesting. Okay, I appreciate the offer, brother. Let me think about that. I would have to get them in touch with the artists, see if they could work together and figure it out. But yeah, because I mean, I knew it was going to be an expensive project, but I just, the deeper we got into it, I'm like realizing, oh, that's why they spend millions and millions of dollars to do this.
Right, dude.
You know what I mean?
Hey, but I'm going to pray for it for sure.
Yeah,
I'm pray
please
for
do.
you and your success.
Please do.
I'm excited. I could see this taking off in so many ways.
Yeah, once we can get a good polished first couple episodes, then I could possibly approach some potential. I don't know.
Investors.
Who knows? Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know if I want to go the Angel Studios route, because they do the public crowdfunding kind of concept. It's just they also. I don't know if you guys have listened to the creator of The Chosen and why he left Angel Studios and how they were taking like 40% of what was being crowdfunded for The Chosen.
Oh wow.
And he was like, after we paid all of our actors and our budget and everything, he's like, we couldn't exist on 60%, like we just didn't have enough to do the script like we wanted to. And so they actually separated from Angel Studios, and it's been really good for them since then. But so I just don't. Yeah, we'd see. We'll see what God has in store. I've been wanting to tell this story for like almost 20 years now, and I just pray that we have all the pieces in place, and we just we're in the beginning stages of building it, and but basically, like if I had unlimited resources, I would spend like 2 years with a whole gang of artists just creating all the vehicles, the ships, the cities, the landscapes, the characters. And then once you have all those 3D pieces,
Video
then
game.
you can not just that, yeah, that's part of it too. But you can hand it to the animators.
I saw the potential for a strategic game right there when you have all
I
these
know,
little. It would be so epic.
Yes, it would. Yes, just imagine running as a giant through the fields, and or imagine running as Noah fighting giants through, like in various scenarios. Like it would be so much fun. Imagine Noah like commandeering one of their flying vessels, and or just it'd just be so much fun. Just all the scenarios you could come up with. But
With God, all things are possible. I can see it.
but yeah, just to create the whole world and everything involved. And then be able to handle all those, because if you guys know how animation is done, you have to create like a 3D digital asset, and then they have like the 360 aspect that they can put into an animation software and cause it to walk and move around and stuff like that. But it's so expensive just to create 3D, like the grand vessel that you saw, those big flying ships that the Watchers use. It to get one of those 3D modeled was $10,000.
Wow.
No way, for real.
But now that we have it modeled, we can do a 360 top bottom, any angle you want, and put it in any scene at any angle you want, and zoom in on it, and move the camera. There, like, so it's just the industry that does this kind of stuff is just super expensive.
Bro,
And
there's
so-
got to be a way to cut costs using AI, man.
I may have some ideas, Sean, with this, like with AI, like Andrew said. Like I've been playing around with like creating, I don't know how big your team is, but I have some at least knowledge about how things could be done in a kind of efficient way, and I'm playing around with like creating images and using Flux AI, for example. And I know there is some ones that I've been testing to create 3D models out of 2D pictures, and you would be amazing what you can create. Like if you get a good picture, you can create from this 2D picture a 3D model of that with textures and everything.
There's ways now, like especially nowadays, like there's ways to cut that cost for sure.
Okay, yeah, sure.
It's gonna we're gonna make it happen, man.
Look into it, and because I didn't pay that to the artist that's working on it. He had to find a third party that supposedly cut us a deal for that price because it took him a couple months to model it like we needed. But anyway, I agree with you. It's probably the AI is probably making things, because AI seems to be increasing exponentially like every month, and all types of new programs coming out. So,
dude,
but the difference is actual artwork versus what AI unfortunately makes things look like, right? Where the lighting texture is sometimes off,
right?
The movements aren't always natural, that kind of thing. So, hopefully, there's some programs out there that can pull it off and make it actually look like the artwork. But I guess I'll keep learning about it.
If from my experience, if you go onto different types of websites that use AI and you have the free feature available to you, then yeah, that's gonna happen. But then all of a sudden, if you pay what is it, like $50 a month or something, then all of a sudden things get cleaned up very quickly, and then they have like customer support and things like that. But I am no expert with that by any means. But again, like I said, if you need financial assistance with it, let me know, and I will help you out.
Okay, I appreciate the offer, brother.
And thanks again, Sean, for coming to kick it, man. It was a pleasure tonight. Honestly,
yeah, it was fun. It was fun. I appreciate you guys chatting with me, hearing me out and stuff, and let me ramble at times, I guess. But I'm excited to know you guys exist, because there's a lot of stuff I want to learn about different aspects of FE and things that I've heard like superficial levels of, but haven't dived into the scientific details yet. But I need to.
Yeah, those links I gave you, just feel free to peruse, especially on Alan's Obsidian. I mean, the amount of detail that man goes into with all of the presentations, you could just peruse through that. Any questions that you have, write them down, and I'll try and talk. I'll talk to Alan and Shane, and we'll see if we can get you prepped for the 16th for sure.
Okay. So, yeah, let me know. Or who was it? DJ Curious. He gave me Shane's info. So
Oh, yeah.
I just
He comes around
haven't had
too.
a chance to contact him yet. But and also Witsit said he'll help me debate prep as well because he obviously
yeah.
went on the trip. But I don't know. I don't think he's too excited about it. Honestly.
No, yeah. Witsit's.
I think he wants me to just leave it. I don't think he wants me to even debate them. Honestly, I think he just wants me to leave it alone. But I personally feel like it needs to be addressed. I don't think that it's good. It's good for us to act like
go with it. Go with it. Definitely do the debate.
Yeah.
There's nothing to be scared of, bro.
I think we need to take head on what they claim are exclusive globe proofs and show that they can't be modeled on a different model. Because all this seems to be just like a media stunt, right? It's just like
It's
loud
absolutely
bravado.
that. Yeah.
It's just shouting at the top of their lungs, "Oh, we've killed flat Earth," and just it's just
exactly.
It's not even like valid, It's like not even Jaren will address the actual curvature in legitimate ways. He just comes up with these ridiculous excuses that I've heard Globers have better arguments for, and it's like Jaren's reverted to Globy 101, right? There's already Globers 405 out there giving better arguments against their curvature, or at least fabricating better arguments. And it's weird listening to Jaren take such a
dishonest position.
180.
Dishonest
Yeah,
position.
it is dishonest.
It's dishonest because we know that he knows many of the position that we actually right now knows. It's like his position. He actually like find out about it. So him acting like it never happened. It's
it doesn't
super
make
dishonest.
sense. He's had Alan and Shane. He's had Alan and Shane on his on his show many times talking about map projections and coordinate systems and how it's just a graticule. Like, there's no way he knows. Like, he was propping up the AE map.
He got bought out. I guarantee it. And I can actually prove that in a tiny little bit. But either way, Jaren has lost over 10% of his subscribers on YouTube within like 2 weeks, and I'm one of them. And I was good friends with Jaren. I know his address, his phone number. I've hung out with him, but yeah, he did me dirty, and then he went and did that on top of it. That's like strike 3. You're out. I'm done, dude. I don't even know what he's doing anymore. I don't care.
What if it's just much more simple than being bought out? What if it's simply maybe he had Alan Ashan's program and they were showing a bunch of stuff and he just didn't fully absorb all of it?
No, but like,
and he just like some of the things like if truly the AE map was like the linchpin that brought him into flat Earth because he thought, oh, we have a visual map that he can hold on to as like, well, this is my reality, and then that in his mind that gets debunked, and so now he feels like he's back at square one and he's ignoring all the other proofs. What if it is really just that simple? I know that's what. Yeah, it's not that you'd have to be unintelligent though. Think about like all the. I don't know if you guys regularly listen to Glowbusters, but I do, and even before Bob died, all the people that came on the Glowbusters, like Jaren wasn't involved for a long time. He would be on the call, but his camera's turned off, his mic turned off. He's not engaging. He wasn't engaging for a long time. He wasn't presenting anything. He wasn't asking questions about what was being presented by other Glowbusters or by Bob. He was just kind of there, just in the background. It's like, yeah.
I want to give him the benefit of the doubt, but there's too many inconsistencies in his, competence versus how many people, including in his inner circle, have told him over and over again, like, that's just a globe projection. Like the AE map is literally just a projection of the spherical coordinate system called the graticule. Like that's the
Right.
truth. It's just Latin long. It's all based on the stars. It's always been that way. He's known it. Witset's known it. Witset's been telling him. Shane's been telling him. Alan's been telling him. They've had presentations on his show.
Well,
You know-
Elizabeth, Elizabeth who went on the trip with him.
Right.
She, I was in a Zoom, or I was in some kind of hangout with her a few nights back, and she started actually I interviewed both Jaron, Austin, and Elizabeth on my show about their trip, and Elizabeth didn't share this when they were all three were on my show, but the other night she shared this in a call, and she said when they were on the plane ride back to Punta Arenas from Union Glacier, that she was talking to Jaron, and Jaron said to her, well, I'm going to be going on a different path than you guys. So something to the effect of, good luck to you or whatever. And Elizabeth didn't quite understand what that meant at the time, but that's on the plane ride back from Union Glacier. So it's like, that plus some of the streams he did before he went, it does seem like he had already kind of made himself extremely susceptible to having his mind changed before he even went.
Yeah, I have like even maybe more conspiracy opinion, and I honestly starting to think that he was like controlled opposition all along, because like just imagine what are the coincidences that for example the behind the curve, the point, like he said, the interesting part, and now like the Antarctica where he's like sometimes you have to admit that we are wrong, like he got 2 catch lines that went all over the world. It's what are like the chances? And there's like many more. I would like, this is like you would have to go deep down to this like rabbit hole. It's just conspiracy, but it's like first, like I was defending them for like 2 months, but now after like what you said, like after the shows, everything what I saw, how is Jaron like acting, how he's like dismissing any other evidence, he's trying to bash the azimuthal equidistant projection, he's like misquoting our arguments and hanging out with Mechtoon and so on and so forth. It's insane.
It's really
like
gross.
It's like I would be definitely okay if he was like, okay, I was wrong with the AE map, I was wrong with the 24-hour sun, okay, and now what are we gonna do? Like there's like evidence on the both sides. We have to like decide. And if he had like this honest approach, he would be like, okay, there's the battle of the beams. There's like now there's this celestial theodolite, but there's like 24-hour sun on Antarctica. How are we gonna do with it? Like asking questions and be honest about like these positions, and not like hiding every single argument that Flat Earth has, and even some arguments that he actually invented, and like just bashing about AE map and 24-hour sun. It's insane, because just imagine we are in these arguments, we know our positions, it's okay, but people that just are coming to this topic, they first think that they will see, hear and look will be Jaron, because Jaron is all over the place, like this I used to be flat earther for 10 years, don't make the same mistakes. So he's actually now the best like gatekeeper that there is for flat earth, like the whole topic. And even like biblical cosmology, because he even like bashing Christianity. He's like, oh, I was one part of the one cult and now I was part of the second cult. He just like perfect agent.
Well, I agree with you that I don't like the fact that he's now made it a mission to evangelize against flat Earth, as opposed to just walking away quietly.
Dude, he even said the moon landing might be real now.
Well, he clearly thinks that SpaceX. I mean, he's promoting the idea that SpaceX is real, right? That they're actually launching rockets to do something. Actually, that's just assuming any of that is real is a complete 180 from his previous life, but. I do think it's strange that he's not just made a new decision, but he's become so rabid against flat earthers that he's trying to like actively evangelize people away from flat Earth. If there's no incentive one way or another, or he's not being coerced or threatened or something like that, it is weird. I agree with you. It's weird.
Yeah. Well,
it doesn't make sense to me. I can't figure it out, because I talked to him on the phone multiple times before he left for the trip, and he always just kept telling me, yeah, I don't think we're going to go. I think it's going to get called off and canceled anyway. I don't think it's actually going to happen. That's what he just kept saying before the trip. But But then, like right before the trip, he did a few streams where it sounded like he was already on the fence before he even went.
Weird, man.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
But hey,
I'm not suggesting
he's on
he was
his own.
cloned or anything like that.
Nah, he's on his own path at this point. I don't even care about him. You know what I mean? Because we're doing better work, good work. You know what I mean?
Well,
Like
we are, but if he's going to make himself in the vein of like a McKeegan or a Professor Dave or McToon, then unfortunately we have to care about him because we got to address.
I agree.
oh yeah,
We got to address him.
that's his choice, and
Yeah.
if he wants to stand in the way of truth, then good luck, bro.
Yeah, it's not going to go well for you. But
It's not going to go well, and I pray for him.
yeah, thank you guys for having me. I can't
Sean, I'm outta here,
promise that
bro.
I'll be here all the time because I'm usually working. I've just been taking a break apparently tonight, but appreciate you guys chatting with me.
Tuesdays roundtable, check it out. Aether Cosmology roundtable Tuesdays 8 p.m. Eastern. That'll be a great way for you to see what kind of stuff we do here for real.
Okay, cool.
And whenever you get a chance to have some time, I'll try and set it up with Shane and Alan if you want to basically pick their brains. Other than that, man, yeah, thank you, man. I really appreciate the conversation. I love you guys. I gotta go to bed.
Yeah,
I'll see you guys
later. Have a good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night, guys, and amazing.
I'm
Good
glad
idea.
that New Perspective was recording this debate. It was awesome.